How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Rick Barlow with Bellwether League Foundation. Welcome to the 18th annual Bellwether League Foundation Induction and Recognition event. We are so glad you're here, especially given the circumstances in the airports these days. So thank you for being here. We are honored to hold our event on Veterans Day Eve, which also happens to be the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Marine Corps. Now, I know this. Yeah, give them a round. I know this because my next door neighbor is a Marine Corps vet, and so I asked him to confirm. A little bit later this evening, we're going to recognize and salute our military veterans, as the military runs one of the most effective supply chain operations in the world. So we're glad to be here to do that. Our culture, our society, our world seems to take the essential nature of supply chain for granted. So long as the stuff you need moves from point to point, hopefully accurately and on time, everything's fine. If there's a hiccup, look out. Of all the industries we've seen bailed out by taxpayers or rescued over time, the airlines, the banks, the car manufacturers, etc., supply chain touches every one of them to the point that none could thrive, let alone survive without it. Everything runs on supply chain, even Duncan. Now, maybe you've seen this right here. Can everyone see what that is? Do you know what these letters stand for? Why don't we say it all out loud so everyone can hear?
Thank you, supply chain.
Excellent. I'm going to give you a round of applause because I was getting ready to break out my Sunday school voice to try it again. Great. There may be some, certainly not here tonight, who disagree or doubt. Here are 3 examples from 3 different centuries who will beg to differ. In the 19th century, remember Clara Barton, our most vintage Hall of Famer, who was in the Bellwether class of 2019, by the way. Remember the troops that she helped during the Civil War, and think of all the people helped by the Red Cross. In the 20th century, remember General George Marshall of the 1940s. Remember the residents of Berlin. His airlifts helped after World War II and during the Cold War that followed. In the 21st century, here and now, ask the person sitting right next to you after the COVID-19 pandemic nearly brought the world to a standstill, if not to its knees. Even as we speak, there are news reports of an organization that is launching a logistics service in space to shuttle supplies around when and where needed. So we have a supply chain down here. We're soon going to have a supply chain up there. And who knows, maybe in the not so distant future, we're going to have a supply chain out there. We started Bellwether League Foundation 18 years ago with 3 aims. First, to identify, recognize, and honor innovative, pioneering, visionary achievements, accomplishments, and thinking among leaders, past, present, and future. Second, to serve as the historian of the healthcare supply chain industry and profession. And third, to promote the inherent value of this industry and profession by sharing the stories of those making a difference, all of you. BLF debuted to honor those near or at the end of their supply chain career and those who are no longer with us, but significantly paved the way for future generations. These are Bellwether honorees, innovators, leaders, pioneers, and visionaries that we induct into the Healthcare Supply Chain Leadership Hall of Fame. We induct 6 tonight, bringing the total to 154 in 18 Bellwether classes. We also recognize and honor those at or near the beginning of their careers who are making noteworthy contributions to their profession, their organization, their industry, and are on pace to be a future Hall of Famer. These are the future famers. We recognize 3 tonight, bringing the total to 45 in 10 future famer classes. We also honor and recognize those in the middle of their careers who have made and continue to make significant contributions to their profession, the organization, and the industry. We titled this recognition after our first inductee, an educator who has written key textbooks on supply chain management inside and outside of healthcare. These are AMR honorees named after the first Hall of Famer in our inaugural class, Dean S. Ammer, PhD, from whose teachings and textbooks thousands learned and continue to learn how to do what they do and to do it even better. We recognize 2 tonight, bringing the total to 8 in 5 Ammer honoree classes. We'll also share with you how we are supporting students studying supply chain through our collegiate capstone projects that feature young minds teaming up with healthcare organizations to explore and develop potential solutions to specific challenges, and through dedicated scholarships named after Bellwether Hall of Famers. To date, we have featured 5 projects, one of which was presented earlier today during our Bellwether Leadership Symposium. And these presentations, by the way, are all going to be, well, the one today will be available on our website soon, but you'll see them all on our website available for you to watch at a later date. One of our taglines is honoring healthcare supply chain leaders of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Yesterday represents the Hall of Famers, but please note there are still many bellwethers actively making a difference. Today represents the Ammer honorees, but this can also include bellwethers and future famers. Tomorrow represents the future famers, who may someday earn Ammer honoree recognition and or Bellwether Hall of Fame induction as they progress through their careers. BLF gives well-earned and well-deserved awards and recognition, and also salutes a service, motivates a mission, and celebrates the history of this vital function that ensures the healthcare system runs effectively, efficiently, and expediently as possible. You all make a difference. Now, I'd like to recognize my fellow governing board members and operational advisory council members who help make all of this happen. Now, I'm going to call their name, and I'm going to ask them to stand, and I'm going to ask all of you to hold your applause until after I finish reading all their names, okay? We're going to start with the board. On the board, I serve with Barbara Strain, chairman, Tom Harview, treasurer, Gary Rakes, advisory council chairman, and Fred Kranz, outreach ambassador. On the advisory council, I serve with Gary Rakes, chairman of the advisory council, Rachel Anderson, Angie Bruns, Ryan Burke, Jake Grunwald, Tom Lubotsky, Chico Manning, Carl Meyer, and Sue Tyke. Please give them a round of applause. They helped make all of this happen with me. Next, I'd like to recognize the Bellwethers, Ammer honorees, and future famers from earlier classes who are here tonight. We had a much larger group before today, I can assure you, but that's quite all right. We've got a good group here. Now, I'm asking them to stand. Please, again, hold your applause until at the end of each list, and I appreciate how well you're following directions today. For the Bellwethers, we're going to start with the, I don't want to say oldest class, but how about the most vintage class and move our way forward? And I did this for you, Dick. How's this? In the class of 2014, Dick Perrin. 2015, Jane Pleasance. 2017, Christine Russell. 2019, we've got 2. We've got Carl Meyer and Vance Moore. 2020, Fred Kranz. 2021, Jake Grunwald and Barbara Strain. And then in 2022, we've got a big group. Ed Hiscock, Tom Lubotsky, David Myers, and Sue Tyke. In 2023, we have 2, Michael Gray and Mary Beth Lang. And in 2024, our newest minted bellwethers, Gail Kovacs and Jean Schneller. Let's give them a round of applause. Next, we're going to go to the future famers. There are 9 in attendance tonight. And again, I'll mention their names. Hold your applause until after I finish. From the class of 2017, Karen Kresnick. From the class of 2018, Amy Chapa. I don't know if Ryan Robar is here from the 2018. From 2019, Jessica Hurd. 2022, Caroline Marion. 2023, Rachel Anderson. 2024, Angie Bruns. And then, let's see, Chico Manning and Corey Schmidt. I think I got everybody. If I missed anybody, please wave your hand furtively. Excellent. Give them a round of applause. I'd also like to thank our hosts here at Wayne State University in Detroit. This includes Kevin Kettles, Director, Entrepreneurship and Innovation Programs at the Mike Ilitch School of Business at Wayne State University, along with Jessica Beasley, Harrison Oliver, and the entire event planning, facilities, and catering team at WSU. Please give them a round of applause. Kevin will be sharing some thoughts in a few moments, so we'll wait for that. Are there any Wayne State University administration, faculty, or students here? If you are, you can stand for recognition, wave your hands, we'll give you a round of applause. Anybody? No? They're all studying. See, that's what they should be doing after a good night. Excellent. Let's give them a round of applause. Now I'm going to invite Barbara Strain, Chairman, to the podium for her opening remarks. Barbara? All right.
Thanks, Rick. And the one person we haven't thanked yet is Rick Dana Barlow. He's our Executive Director, co-founder of Bellwether, and current Secretary of the Board. Rick, thank you for everything you do for Bellwether. I want to welcome everybody again, those that we weren't at the symposium. As Rick said, this is our 18th event. And I went back and counted how many faces there were at the first event, and there were 9. And for this one, we have a lot more, but we have 154 total that are going to be awardees. And what I call these folks are our own sphere of influence. Influencers in these days are a lot different than they were maybe 25 years ago, 50 years ago. And each one of you have an opportunity because you have a whole sphere of individuals around you every single day, whether they're your own staff and providers in other organizations in your community or your professional organizations. There are the manufacturers and new technology and suppliers, the GPOs and the distributors. And they're all the media things we read every single day that pop up in our social media, our email blasts. We could go on and on with that particular list. And then the education folks. And it all boils down to how are we passing on the legacies, the things that we've done, but to prepare people, as we heard students today, which was so refreshing, to talk about what they've learned and how can they apply that in healthcare. And they're learning exponentially what that really looks like, that we're a complicated lot. There's so many things and headwinds coming at us, but there's so many trade winds that we can just tail and pick up on that will really help us to face those headwinds. And we have the manpower, we have the influencers and the sphere that we've created, and we'd like to continue that on and reach out to those individuals. Have them understand and learn about Bellwether. As Rick said, we're really developing a lot of different programs around all of those themes that we've discussed. And we have nowhere but up to go to really do that. So without further ado, I always hate when people say that, so I don't know why I said it. Anyway, I want to invite Kevin Kettles up from the Wayne State University to say a few things, and I call him our host because these are his house and his grounds and his students, and he helped to make this happen. Kevin.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming here to Detroit and Wayne State University. We're really happy to have you here. I don't know how many of you are familiar with our university, our school, but we're a pretty proud university that we have here. We're the third largest research university in the state of Michigan. You maybe don't know it because we don't have a Division I football team, but rest assured, we do pretty well. We have the number 21 ranked supply chain program in the country at the Mike Ilitch School of Business, where I teach. And so we're pretty proud of that as well. I wanted to thank Rick and Barbara and the rest of the team for inviting my students to present their capstone project today. It was really a wonderful experience for them. I'll tell you this, the presentation was great, what they did and the chance that they got to share this with you. But I'll tell you what was really very special about this was not the presentation, but the work that they did with the folks from Corewell. And that was the meetings and going and doing the site visits and talking to all the staff and interviewing them and asking for data and then looking at it, analyzing it, and then going back and saying, we need other data. And then doing it again and saying, we need more data. And they kept doing this over and over again. And it was really just a fantastic learning experience and giving them exposure to healthcare supply chain. Here in Detroit, our business school was known for decades and decades as being a pipeline for the automotive industry. And back in 2020, I went to our department chair at the time and I said, we really need to have a healthcare supply chain class. And in the fastest that we've ever done anything at the university that year in 2020, we're able to start our first one. And so we now have an MBA concentration in healthcare supply chain. We have an MD MBA program where we're teaching future docs healthcare supply chain. I've had Mike Langlois and Ed Hiscock. That's right. I've had these guys come and talk to my class and share their own experiences. But I talk to them. These are future doctors and future leaders in healthcare. And I'm talking to them about PAR levels and group purchasing organizations. And I'm bringing them to Cardinal Health, their distribution center here in Midtown Detroit. And they're checking out the robotics and all the inventory systems that they have. And they're really, really excited about it. So we're very happy with this program. We also just recently, I think it was last week, we had the Board of Governors here at Wayne State approve a new healthcare MBA. So we're no longer just an automotive school when it comes to dealing with supply chain, but I think of us very much now as a healthcare school. And so we're very excited about this. It'll probably take about a year and a half because we've got to hire all the faculty, we got to put all the classes together, and this is going to take a little time to do this. But I'll tell you, these types of experiences are really, really important. Marcel Zondas from Western Michigan University, he's a colleague that I've done, a professor at Western Michigan. We've done many case competitions together and had these types of experiences. But I'll tell you what, I guarantee it, I've seen this 1,000 times. When you invite students and you encourage them in the way that you've done, you change lives, you change careers. I've seen it 1,000 times where students say, like they're just trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. And I remember at a recent MARM conference, a student asked me, why would I do healthcare? Why would I do this job? And why would I do this job in healthcare? And someone at the conference shared their personal story. And I said, this is why. This is purpose-driven work that happens here in healthcare supply chain. And it's different. We send a lot of students to General Motors and to Ford and Stellantis, but it's a little bit different when you're buying wheels and windows and things like this than what you're doing here to save lives and to make lives better. And it's a different vibe, and they really have gotten to experience that. Ed Hiscock and I have been working hard on promoting these case study competitions in our own MARM chapter with Joseph Yang as well, and working on encouraging students to explore this as a career option. And so we're not only doing it in our MARM chapter, our ARM chapter, our Michigan ARM chapter, but also nationally. Ed is leading this at the national level to make this happen. And boy, it's spreading. Because what happens is when we invite a Marcel to a competition before, he wasn't thinking very much about healthcare supply chain. And when you have these types of events, it encourages their faculty to start thinking about it. And when the faculty start thinking about it, it starts spreading to all of our students. And then there's a ripple effect that goes across time and all of these life experiences that keep happening over and over again. So once again, thank you for the invitation for my students to participate. We're very happy to host you today and to be a part of this, and keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, and sharing with us all the great work that you're doing on behalf of supply chain and healthcare. Now I'm going to bring up Joe Colonna, who's the Chief Supply Chain at Piedmont Health and also on our Philanthropy Committee. Joe?
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Barbara. I've got some prepared things I want to say before I introduce Eric. I am dyslexic and I rarely read. And if I stammer or stutter, it's because it's hard for me sometimes to read, but there's things I wanted to make sure that I said. But before I do, I was struck by something that Kevin said. It really does matter who influences you young in life. It matters a lot. When I was young in my career, dyslexic, had sort of pigeonholed myself for several different reasons, as this is as much as I was ever going to do, and I was pretty dissatisfied with it. I met Bill McFall, and he became a mentor, and then he became a close friend. And I am blessed to have several mentors who have also become very close friends in this industry. Bill was first of these. Ed Hiscock, who is a member, inductee, and Nick Gaish are all people who have started as mentors and friends, or people that were willing to listen to my nonsense and then give me tough love when I needed it, and tell me, no, you can do better. You just don't think you can do better. And all those things you think are hindering you are actually things that are going to be assets. The way you think, the way your brain works, the dyslexic brain works differently. I problem solve differently. This one, I'm going to try to make it through this. Bill entered my life in a really important time, and I want to make sure that I recognize him appropriately. So I think Bill was inducted in '08. He was one of the first group, and he could not make it for health reasons, but he gave a quote that I think resonates to this day. Bill noted that supply chain's accomplishments weren't due to the better prices or lower inventory. Instead, they were attributable to never-ending struggle to train and educate others that healthcare quality cannot improve, nor can expense be lowered without change. And Bill was that change. Back when we were still materials managers, Bill was an early leader and evangelist for change in our industry. What we consider the norm, and simply the way we do our work today, is a direct result of Bill and his peers, challenging the status quo and showing healthcare industry how much impact a high-functioning supply chain can have on high-quality care while balancing strong financial stewardship. It is no way you can say that the road to supply chain leadership, moving from the basement to the C-suite, was not paved by Bill McFall and others like him, many of whom have been inducted by the Bellwether Group. Bill was not only a mentor for me and others, including some of us here today, but also a close friend. Bill helped me professionally and personally. His family embraced me as one of their own in a way that only a loud, loving Italian family can do. And they were very loud, but they were very loving. I've been very blessed to have them all in my life for almost 30 years, but I was certainly not the only one to be adopted as a family member from our profession. Bill's wife, Philly, who could not be here tonight, but should also be recognized for the love and support she gave to Bill and all of us who enjoyed the great food that she provided to those attended the McFall version of the Algonquin Roundtable. We sat around eating good food, drinking good wine, and solving all the world's problems. Philly also was a good anchor for Bill. And for those of you who know Bill, he was super smart, and he had a little bit of an ego. And Philly was the one who would occasionally put him in his place and remind him that there's humans on the other side of this. Philly also provided loving advice. She certainly helped me in my personal life as well as my about work and life balance, and also the importance of taking care of family. I didn't think I wanted a family for a long time, and now I have a beautiful 12-year-old daughter that I could not live without, and that's in part due to the advice that Philly gave me and my wonderful wife, Ann. Philly wanted me to tell you how honored and meaningful this recognition is for her family. And on behalf of Philly and Bill's daughters, Melanie, Joanna, Alexis, I want to express our deep appreciation for this and the previous recognition by the Bellwether community, and for all the recognition of Bill's contributions to the industry. Thank you. So Eric, sorry. But I don't know Eric well, but I've heard of his reputation, and I'm very, very proud to introduce Eric to the podium, or bring Eric to the podium to deliver the first William J. McFall keynote this evening. And tonight, his topic will be entrepreneurship and healthcare supply chain. Eric is well known to the industry and profession and has been a friend of Bellwether League Foundation for nearly a decade. With more than 30 years' experience as a researcher, author, speaker about healthcare supply chains and system, he has a unique vantage point on entrepreneurship as a strategic advisor to technology startups like Clarium, new service entrants to healthcare like LogicSource, and current stakeholders in healthcare breaking new ground in key areas like Vizient. Eric's entrepreneurial journey has included executive roles in developing innovative distribution and manufacturing models for acute care and non-acute care for such companies as Cardinal Health and eSurge, which was acquired by Henry Schein, and an executive role in developing high-level benchmarking research and recognition programs for healthcare supply chains and systems at Gartner. He currently serves as Managing Director, Eric O'Dev for Healthcare Advisory, LLC. Please welcome Eric to the podium.
Thanks, Joe. All right, let's see if I can handle all this. Oh, good job, Erica. Thank you. I see you. I appreciate you. And I changed the title. Thank you. It's going to be about the spirit of giving in entrepreneurship, a Bellwether League perspective. And Joe talked about this. You can see it's all about people. We're going to reflect on this through the lens of a lot of people tonight. And I don't claim, as I look out at this audience, I feel like a magician trying to show another magician a trick. You've all been around. You've seen entrepreneurship. You know what it looks like. I'm just going to give you my perspective, and it's a 12-minute sprint. Rick's given me 12 minutes, and I'm cooking so we can get to all of our bellwethers. So let's see if we can get this to work. So this entrepreneur and bellwether member said this as the mantra of the company that he founded and built into what it was: give more than you get. Anybody in the audience know who this bellwether member is? Somebody knows. I mean, a handsome bald man, bespectacled, Foster McGaw, bellwether class, second class, 2009, founder of American Hospital Supply, entrepreneur, who, had a profit motive, but he also had a motive to give back to the industry and build something that was bigger than yourself. And the organization that I joined fresh out of college that made me fall in love with supply chain and dedicate my career to it was largely built on what Foster McGaw started. The people that were in that organization, the customers that we served, this mantra served us well. And I think as we get in and talk about entrepreneurship in the healthcare supply chain, you can't forget this, and we're going to come back to the spirit of giving as we go into it. So our journey, this 12-minute journey, it's going to be about the state of entrepreneurship. It's going to be a few lessons from some key leaders. I know you've all had influencers in your career. I've had a few, and I'll share those tonight, and everybody will have their own that then they can talk about tonight. I kind of view myself as a party starter in a lot of these roles. And then I will give some guidance on what to do now, because I think we're at an inflection point, another inflection point in our industry as we think about supply chain. It's important now to concentrate on that and think about, okay, how do we support entrepreneurship? What is it, and how do we do it? So entrepreneurship, before we kind of go into the three types that there are in healthcare, is in essence the development of a business that takes some risk, financial risk and time risk, in search of a profit. That's what you'd call it. I claim for healthcare that it takes a level higher. All the people that I've seen build companies and entrepreneurs build companies that have done great things for the healthcare supply chain, maybe a little slower than we'd like, and we'll talk about that later too. But if you think about it, you know, this concept of entrepreneurship in healthcare means service as well. And service beyond ourselves, service to the health system, service to the patients, service to the clinicians, and ultimately, when people really do it right, service to the industry. Things that are really good end up propping up the industry. And they come in three primary forms: new technology and service providers, somebody that creates a new company that goes out and builds that and brings it to the industry to better it and create a profit. New product, better mousetrap. Think about this over the last number of years, companies that do this or find a different way to come to the market with a solution that they can sell. And then lastly, and it's a big category, and because my bias in research has historically been toward the providers, I tend to take a little more of a provider lens than maybe some people will, but a lot of the folks that build this stuff within health systems are entrepreneurs, somebody that builds something within their own enterprise that then realizes, hey, this is something that we do so well that maybe we could sell it outside. And it's an important component of it and growing in its importance. If you go back to the last 50 years, think about things that are entrepreneurial. You know, the advent of GPOs, entrepreneurial. ERP systems, entrepreneurial. The development of CSCs, an entrepreneurial bent. Electronic ordering and all that, right? Somebody had an entrepreneurial vision, built something out that they could sell to somebody else and go down that path. And I would claim that entrepreneurship kind of goes in stages, particularly for these entrepreneurs. And the first stage is coming up with an idea. You're doing something in your own organization that is new, innovative, you think is pretty cool, and you do it there. Arguably, I would call it the easiest of the three. The second phase is you've done that so well for your own organization that you're going to share it across the industry. You're going to publish it. You're going to present it to somebody. You are going to be somebody that teaches people what to do that may provide them value. Okay, that's the second level of mastery. I can tell you that the writing part of it, by far the hardest. Okay, the way hardest one that trips everybody up is the ability to take that idea, that thing that you can explain to somebody, and actually sell it to somebody else who pays you. Sell it in service. Really hard work, and it's why, you know, I don't know what the number is. 9 out of 10 new ventures that come out of health systems don't make it. I watched it all the time. I tended to be a wet blanket, but when it does work, it's amazing, and it drives the industry forward, and it can do just tremendous things for everybody. So we're going to transition now to some of the folks that broke that ground, that figured out how to not only have a great idea, explain it, but also sell and service it successfully in different capacities. A couple of them we've already talked about. Clara Barton, maybe my favorite bellwether of all time. Because if you think about the things that line up under bellwether, you know, there is not only you've created something new and interesting and contributed in a career, but you've had to do it with integrity, a mission, and advance the industry in a way. Nobody did that better than Clara Barton when she was inducted in 19. I thought it was amazing. Bill, Joe did a great job explaining that. I won't talk more about Bill, but he was an amazing entrepreneur. And now we're going to get into some personal people. And it was really hard to figure out, well, who do you do? They had to be a bellwether member, and they had to be somebody that I had direct experience seeing what they did entrepreneurially. Jim, and he's not here tonight, bellwether class of 17, I think. Just an unbelievable entrepreneur. If you look at what he's built and his team up at Mayo Clinic, 6 different businesses generating hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. It's really been an amazing thing to benefit both the health systems and the Mayo Clinic. And I'm going quick on these. Teresa Dale. Teresa also took a GPO role at her role at Vanderbilt and built this thing out. Really impressive. What she really did, if you dig into it, is CareFluent Connect, which took a home care business. And if you want something hard to do, home care is absolutely it. It's brutal. Teresa built that out, made a successful business out of it. Just a lot of respect for what she did there. Vance Moore. Vance is here tonight, one of my personal mentors. If you watch what Vance did, and I love Vance because he came from the manufacturer, the distributor, the wholesaler side, crossed over to the world of health systems, built the ROI model that they eventually sold to Health Trust. It literally educated dozens, maybe hundreds of people that came through that service center over the time that Vance did that job. Roz Parsons, I don't know if a lot of people know Roz, what she did in the center part of Florida from a clinician's background with a lot of hurdles in her way. She built out a clinically aligned supply chain that really helped in that specific market, had a GPO, HPA, had a special way that I think leveraged some of Bill McFall's work in things that come around on the clinical side. And last but not least, local hero, Ed Hiscock. And Ed makes this for a couple reasons. Ed was at a health system, Trinity, left, built his own company, co-founded a company on the analytics side as a service provider, and then came back for the last 10 years of his career to Trinity. And Ed's important in the world of thinking about entrepreneurial bellwethers in that Ed also was an encourager, maybe more than anybody I ever met in this role. Ed encouraged other people to do entrepreneurial things, embraced them, tried to figure out how he could help them and knock down barriers for them. So some great and restless entrepreneurial bellwethers. I would call them the young and the restless. They tend to do this stuff later in their career, and maybe that gets to lesson 2, which is the power of compounding, right? The miracles of human life is all built into compounding. In finance, it works. It works as well in healthcare supply chain and entrepreneurship because you have to have what my dad would have called stick-to-itiveness. You don't see a lot of people that do entrepreneurial things in supply chain, particularly coming out of the health systems, unless they've been there for a while. These aren't people that are in there for 1 or 2 years, and our industry is riddled. If you look at what's happened, 50% of the chief supply chain officers or equivalent are in their role less than 3 years at this point. I just went and looked at my LinkedIn, literally went person by person. I'm like, less than 3 years, it's exactly 50%. So stick-to-itiveness and the ability to gain the trust of an organization, to bring capital, to get to be able to allocate time are absolutely key and critical to driving anything that is entrepreneurial. And many of the folks that have driven and done these entrepreneurial things think that people think it kind of happened overnight. I look back and look at Captus at Mayo and I go, this thing, started in 2008, and it took every year and everything to make all that stuff happen. So earn trust, time equals an overnight success, and that resonates through all of our bellwethers. And then I interviewed probably 10 people I'd consider entrepreneurial. Not all of them in the healthcare supply chain. Not all of them were bellwethers, but it was very interesting. Maybe not telling you something you don't know, but short-term failure was almost always the mantra for these folks. They would come back and they'd say, in some cases, I'm not sure I'd do this if I had to do it over again. Yeah, I was successful, but if I knew what it would take, I'm not sure. And the ones that were successful would come back and say, hey, this is a process of fail, recover, adapt, try again, revise, and repeat. And that may be repeat into a new business. That may be repeat into the existing business that you went after. And working now for a couple entrepreneurial companies, I think it's exactly that. The equation, there's no substitute for this kind of hard work. Listen, figure out how to sell and service, because that's the absolute key. It's not a art, it's a science, and it's the thing that most people neglect in the process, and gain trust, because we all know if you lose trust, it's done in this industry. So a few lessons, and a few successful folks that were Bellwether League members, and a few things to think about and to build on for the future. So my last thoughts are, okay, now we've kind of talked about this. We've highlighted some of these bellwethers. What do we do now? And my claim is that we should seek to climb on the backs of giants and figure out what's next. It's not going to be creating an ERP or creating the GPO concept or CSC. So what is it? And what can you do? What can I do as we think about this area? And I claim it kind of lands in two camps. One is be somebody that goes and is inspired to go take a risk. It's your own organization. Build something that can be sold. Take that risk. I watched a big wave surfing movie on the airplane the other day, watching these people that are crazy enough to go out on the wave. I view it as kind of similar, right? It's a risk. It's exposure. You've got to get capital to go do it. But it has high rewards to the industry, and somebody has got to do it, and somebody in our past history has done it, and we've been able to stand on their backs. The second one, and maybe it's the lesson of Ed. What do you call those, Ed? Editorials? Ed-isms? I don't know what it is. But lean into it when people are doing it. We've been slow to adopt technology and new processes. So how do you think about it in your own role and go, hey, when this happens, when somebody brings capital to healthcare supply chain, when somebody has taken the initiative to find good ideas, how do I and my organization lean in and support these new ideas? They're both equally important, and in some ways, I think one of the great underutilized levers to pull for many of us, particularly those sitting at health systems, are the venture arms of our organizations. How do we support vendors that we want to support through those venture arms? And I've tried to give a few areas where I think we have an opportunity to double the focus and investment. So in some cases, this isn't just spending money, it's thinking about how do I align and tap some areas. And I claim they're in two kind of primary components: technology, AI, and analytics staff to do it. I believe that we've got a growing chasm of haves and have-nots, and those that are building out technology solutions, AI-driven solutions, and getting investment are worthy of our support, analytics staff within the team. And then these other areas are areas that I claim are just ripe for innovation. And there's some burgeoning entrepreneurs that are coming up in these areas: pharmaceutical supply chain, reverse logistics for advanced therapies, certainly purchase services, that wild, wild west, home care, capital equipment, life cycle management. They're not areas that we've done great at as an industry, and I believe it's ripe for entrepreneurship and the way to figure out and how to tackle it. So there's probably others that you all are thinking about that we haven't even done, but I look at it and I go, hey, how do we stand on those backs of what people have done and do something new and different? So with that said, look, I think we're all on this journey together. It's great to think about the people that came before us and the people that are doing innovative things now. I believe that a lot of bellwether is entrepreneurship, the things that people have developed. And I hope that the next wave of entrepreneurship comes again from the Bellwether League. And I hope you'll all be on this journey with me, because I think the best is yet to come in supply chain. And personally, I can't wait to hear all the bellwethers at all levels give their talks tonight. So thank you all.
Thank you, Eric. That was great. We really appreciate you. And the 12.5-minute sprint is always difficult. If anyone has seen Eric at a lot of meetings and things, it can go on for a very long time. So we really, that was a compliment. I hang on every word every time you're on stage, really. But as someone said earlier, I think it was Chico and Ed said, we could talk for an extra couple of hours when we start talking about those things that we're very passionate about. So I thank you, Eric, very much. Glad I could provide the entertainment for the evening. Now is the time that we really dig in and start to talk about our awardees for 2025. At this time, I want to start with the future framers. As Rick explained, these are those in the first 10 years of their career. And what we look for in these individuals are those innovative initiatives and the projects that they wrap their arms around and shine at. And those are the things that sort of drive these future famers, is to really take what they've learned and dig in and really say, hey, I have that idea and let's go with it. And this is how I think we can do it. So Rachel Anderson's going to come up and talk about our first future famer. And as you all come up, just a little instructions, we have a picture to take. So as you come up to get your award, I will be giving it to you, and then you can come to the podium and give a few words of your own. Thank you. We can put this back on here if you want. I think. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Anderson, and it's my privilege and my honor to introduce the first of the Future Famers tonight, and that's Ruben Matthew Phillip. Ruben represents the next generation of healthcare supply chain leaders who are transforming our industry through innovative technology and deep domain expertise. As Director of Product at Clarium, he has helped build and scale AI-powered solutions that are driving measurable value and end-to-end optimization for the healthcare supply chain. What sets Ruben apart is his unique combination of technical expertise and practical supply chain experience. He began his career at Boston Children's Hospital, where he automated processes that saved his team over 53 hours per week. That practical problem-solving knowledge and mindset has defined his approach to building technology, always focusing on real operational challenges and solving those for healthcare providers. Ruben's impact extends far beyond his company. He's a prolific contributor to his profession, publishing white papers and articles on AI and healthcare supply chain, presenting at major conferences, including ARM, AVAP, HIDA, and HCP, and serving alongside myself on ARM's Young Professionals Advisory Council, where he will be the upcoming chair for next year, and Education Committee. The Future Famer Award recognizes active supply chain professionals that are in that first decade of their career, who have contributed meaningfully through innovative initiatives. Ruben embodies this perfectly. Not only is he just getting started, but he's already transforming how healthcare organizations leverage data and automation to reduce waste, standardize operations, and deliver high-quality care to our patients. Please join me in congratulating Ruben Matthew Phillip, Future Famers Class of 2025.
All right. I get a 5-minute sprint is what I'm told. Hey, everybody. Good evening. Ruben Phillip. And Rachel, where did Rachel go? Oh, first off, I want to thank Rachel. Thank you for those very kind words. Rachel's remarks reminded me that, and some of what you said, Eric, reminded me that no one achieves anything meaningful alone. And when I was reflecting on my journey so far, Future Famer, very little, it's been standing on the backs of so many leaders, many of whom in this room, many of them not here. So, this recognition belongs to all of the leaders who believed in me, challenged me along my career, and continued to shape the leader that I'm becoming today. So I want to thank all of them. I want to thank the Bellwether League. Thank you for this recognition. Thank you for creating this award and investing in the next generation of leaders. And I'm really excited to be part of this community. Thank you to Rachel and Ryan for nominating me for this award. I met Rachel and Ryan, I think, 4 years ago now, when I joined the ARM YPAC. And a month into knowing them, I knew that I'd found mentors whose leadership and raw passion for healthcare supply chain I wanted to emulate. They've shown me what investing in the next generation of leadership looks like, and I'm really, really excited to follow in their footsteps with the ARM YPAC in the coming years. All right, in preparation for this today, I was reflecting on, how did I get here? And most people I talk to say that they fell into healthcare supply chain. I have Dave Walsh at Boston Children's Hospital to thank for me ending up here. So I still remember the first time I met Dave Walsh, for any of you who know him. I was still in grad school, and after an hour of conversation about how healthcare supply chain works, he just handed me a ARM CMRP guide. He's like, take this, do with it what you will. It's like, okay, thank you. And that was really the hook that got me. I went back and I was reading it, and it was so different than any of the grad school classes I was taking in supply chain. Healthcare was just sort of different. The terminology was different, and the way that things worked was different. And then fast forward to me graduating, Dave ended up taking a chance on me and inviting me over to his team at Boston Children's Hospital, where he not only bet on me, but also created an environment that was very, very open to experimentation and created a culture of always looking to do something slightly better than it was done yesterday. I'm grateful to the whole team at Boston Children's for teaching me the foundations of healthcare supply chain, because I knew nothing at the time, still figuring it out. And B, really instilling in me how everything that we do in supply chain directly impacts the mission of our healthcare organization, which at Children's was until every child as well. And everything that we did was in service of that mission. My short time at Amazon, I say short, a year, taught me how much, the impact of supply chain could have, or how much technology could impact supply chain when we went from supporting 1-day deliveries to 4-hour deliveries to 2-hour deliveries and then 1-hour deliveries. They taught me to build at scale. And more importantly, how fun and excellence were very correlated. The more fun you had, the better you somehow ended up doing at the job you were at. And that's something that I've taken with me everywhere. To my team at Clarium, I'll start with Steve, our CEO, who made a bet on me when I was very, very early in my career and really trusted me to build Clarium from the ground up and trusted me with his vision of improving healthcare supply chain and investing technology and capital into building a product for that elevated healthcare supply chain. To my team at Clarium, some of who are here today in this room, thank you for believing in that vision and working so hard every day to make it a reality. Who else? To my parents, who've made countless sacrifices over the years to give me every opportunity that I've had, who supported me in my crazy decision to move halfway across the world to follow my dreams, and who've always been there throughout my life. I wouldn't be here without them. And finally, to my lovely wife, Meghna, who's also here today, who's been my constant source of joy. Anytime anyone asks me why I'm so happy all the time, it's because I have her to go home to. And she seems very quiet, but she can make anyone laugh and be your best friend. Just give her 5 minutes. Thank you for filling our home with love, for supporting me through all the craziness that has been the last 4.5 years or more. For everything. All right. This recognition is, I'm really honored to be here receiving it, but I'm doing this on behalf of all those people that I mentioned, and many more that I haven't mentioned that have contributed to my career so far. So I'm proud to be here representing them. But most of all, I'm excited. I'm excited for the inflection point that Eric was talking about, excited for where the industry is headed, excited for all the partnerships that we will create and all the innovation that we will drive to move us forward. I forgot one thing. I forgot to thank all the partners and peers and friendships in this room. So all of you, really. I've learned so much from the healthcare supply chain community over the years, and it's been such a big part of learning and growing in this space. And the connections and friendships that I've built in this room and outside of these rooms have been some of the friendships that I cherish most. So I want to thank all of you for being part of this journey and continuing to support. Okay, coming back to the end. We're doing this live. It's going to be great. It only gets better from here, the next speeches. So I'm setting everybody up for success here. So I'm going into the future. I'm really, really excited to be part of this bellwether community and stand on the shoulders of the giants in this room and outside as we build that next chapter of healthcare supply chain together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruben. I think you can tell the enthusiasm of our youngsters that are coming up here and the things that they've already accomplished and the things that we hope they will. So next, I'd like to ask Jennifer Smith to come up and introduce our next future famer, Andrea Palopoulos. Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm John Grande with Vizian, and I'm really excited to be here to honor and introduce somebody who I think embodies a best-in-class supply chain leader like Andrea Palopoulos. I'm standing in for Jennifer, who got delayed and was not able to make it. So I wrote down a few words and I put it on paper. Usually I don't speak from notes, but I didn't want to mess it up. I'm also delighted that Andrea's husband, Mike, is here with us tonight. Mike, thank you for the tremendous support of Andrea. I know it's a lot to do, and also a special honor to their two children who are home, who will get up early for school tomorrow where their mom is here, being recognized for some amazing work. When I think about what it takes to lead at the highest level, clear strategy, exceptional people skills, relentless focused on cost, efficiency, and adaptability, Andrea is one of the first people who comes to mind. She brings teams together. She uses data to simplify complex problems. She builds processes that hold up under pressure, and she does it all while keeping mission critical front and center, which is patient care. In less than 10 years in healthcare supply chain, she's delivered exceptional results, integrating cultures and systems after a major merger, aligning billions of dollars in spend and building an agile, resilient organization that improves quality and lowers costs every day for the patients in Michigan. Please join me in welcoming 2025 Future Famer candidate, Corewell Health's Senior Vice President of Supply Chain, Andrea Palopoulos.
Thanks, Karen. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I feel like I am ill-prepared, and it is tough to follow that act, Ruben. You did a fantastic job. First of all, I want to state that when I found out that I had received this award, I was shocked and I was incredibly humbled. And I reflected for a bit and read through the words Future Famer quite a few times, and then reached out to Rick and said, Rick, well, I very much appreciate being recognized as a Future Famer. I will let you know that I have been working for a bit longer than 10 years. And in that, Rick's response was, well, this is the first 10 years within healthcare supply chain. I want to thank the Bellwether League for the recognition, as well as my friends that I've become so close to at Vizient, and many others in the room that I find so incredibly inspiring. 8 years ago, I made the transition from manufacturing supply chain to healthcare supply chain. And it wasn't something that I had ever anticipated. I was able to harness some great experience in manufacturing supply chain that I will forever be grateful for, and had anticipated that kind of being my trajectory until I lost my mom to metastatic breast cancer. And it was at that point that I took a step back and had a sort of major point of reflection with my husband and said, I need to do something different, and I need to do something that truly matters to me. And at that point, I made the transition to what was Spectrum Health. I took a few steps back in my career at that point, kind of took a leap of faith, if you will, knowing that, again, I needed a change and I truly wanted to connect to purpose. And I never envisioned in 8 years that I would be running supply chain at Corewell Health. I am so incredibly grateful and so humbled for the opportunity that I have day in and day out to work with such amazing people, both within the four walls of Corewell Health, but as well as so many of you in this room that I look up to immensely. So thank you again for the recognition. It means the world to me. Immense appreciation, and onward. Thank you.
We'll have that anthem, onward. All right. For our last Future Famer Award, I'd like to introduce Angie Bruns, who's introducing Nicole Schmidt. Angie.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I am beyond honored to be here tonight to introduce this entire group to Nicole Schmidt. So I am going to have you all go on a little journey with me, okay? So imagine it is Monday morning, okay? You're like, all right, it's Monday morning. I'm ready to go. You get up. How many coffee drinkers do we have? Okay, get your coffee. All right, coffee, tea. You're ready to go. You turn on the news. Everything's going great. The dog's being quiet. You got gas in your car. You're ready to go. You go into work. No traffic. You get into your office. You're like, this is great. And you get a knock on the door. And you have somebody walking in the door with the biggest smile on their face. And they say, good morning. That's Nicole, by the way. But what you didn't know is that she has been up since 3 a.m. with her sick toddler. From there, she has had to completely reorganize her entire day and schedule to accommodate for that sick toddler. Then she was a little late getting her preschooler to school because of the schedule that she had to figure out, right? But she had all these meetings. She was planning to be in the office, but she took them from the car. But she hit traffic. But on that call with a group of about 10 cardiologists, she had built relationships for years with this group. She was still able to influence them to make a decision that saved her organization over 7 figures in savings. But then she got an IM while still in the car from a team member who was having a really hard time with a customer, another physician, and she had to hop on that call to help take care of her team member. She gets into the office a little late. She goes to her email and she sees this horrendous recall that is going to affect pretty much the entire system. But once again, because of all those relationships that she's had, she's able to navigate and have conversation with a village of providers to help ensure that patient safety is the utmost priority and that patients are not impacted. And she did all of that before 8 a.m. on a Monday. So imagine what the rest of that day is going to look like. The power of positivity cannot go unnoticed. And the ability to juggle so much and be there for everyone is an art that not many people have mastered. And the ability to pour so much passion and love into a group, meaning her team, it's unparalleled. Nicole is truly an inspiration to her 2 kiddos, her husband Robbie, who is here today, her entire family and friends, but to her team, to our organization, to the suppliers, to all of you as the Bellwether League, and to future generations to come. And I'm so excited to introduce you all to Nicole Schmidt.
Okay, I knew Angie was going to make me cry, so I had to write some things down. Wow, thank you very much, Angie. It is truly an honor to be recognized by the Bellwether League Foundation and to be surrounded by so many incredible minds in this room. This makes this moment even more special. So I feel privileged to be standing here. This does mean a great deal to me. I've been very lucky to learn from incredible mentors and colleagues at the University of Kansas Health System. Their dedication, vision, and compassion have shaped how I approach every challenge. This recognition really belongs to all of them and the people who lead through example and servant leadership every day. One thing I've learned along the way is that hard work can actually be fun when you have the right team around you. The laughter, the shared problem solving, and the sense of purpose is what keeps it all meaningful. For me, this award is a reminder that growth never stops that when we keep learning, collaborating, and sharing what we know, we help move the whole field forward. I am grateful for this moment and excited to keep learning, growing, and having fun doing the work that makes a difference. So thank you again for this incredible honor.
Thank you all for your Future Famer Awards. We're moving on to the AMR Awards. I want to introduce Vance Moore, who will be coming up and giving the award to Allison Corey. Vance.
Howdy, folks. I'm Vance Moore, and I do have the honor of introducing Allison Corey. And a little history, back when I was in the middle of my career, with the AMR Award being an award for those in the middle part of their career, I was lucky enough to be one of the first people at Mercy that actually, when we started an intern program, and the very first person who was introduced to me as my intern was Allison Corey. So it was fantastic to actually interact with her in the very early stages. And she was this brave person right off the bat to dig in, to get dirty. And I was looking for somebody who would really get dirty in the practice of healthcare. So that was fantastic. And she did great with Mercy, and we ended up hiring her, and she worked there for a few years. And then she bravely stepped out and I think joined Aramark, and then from Aramark into O&M Solutions, from O&M Solutions into Owens & Minor, and ultimately back into the provider world. And I love that, and I love it for many reasons. There are several people in this room who've actually taken a step out into the industry side, come back to the provider side of the world. It's so rewarding. And if you look at her career as it's advanced and matured, and even though it's in the middle part of the career, those things that she has been recognized for in the provider world most recently is really focused on the fundamentals, the things around creating a center of excellence around the procurement process and doing everything in the right way. And another thing, focusing on the value analysis teams. And these are fundamentals. These are what we do all the time. But the most important thing, I think, is, even the last part that I'd like to mention there is, she's focused on developing relationships and with people in this room and many other rooms, and stepping across the aisle, so to speak, to meet other people in other organizations and learn from them. And that's what, I think many of us that are in this room today will chalk up a lot of our individual success through the relationships that we've built. And it's not about us, it's about who we serve. And that's one of the things that I'm very proud of Allison. That she's got a passion for the clinicians she serves, for the patients she serves, and then does so through her relationships and through her process-driven mind. And so, with that as a background, I'd like us to welcome and honor Allison Corey.
My piece of paper away. Oh, heavy. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I have to say, standing here tonight feels pretty incredible and a little surprising at the same time. It's such an honor to receive this award, and I'm truly humbled, and I'd like to thank those that nominated me. It's a little bit of a secret on who all the folks are, but I know of at least 2 or 3 folks that reached out and shared with me their kind words, and I would be remiss to not mention Carl, Barbara, Regine, who all have really endorsed me throughout my career and took this opportunity to recognize me. To be recognized by people that I admire so much and respect means significantly more than just any other award, and it's more than I can really put into words. To be recognized this evening, specifically alongside Jason Molding, George, Andrea, and other friends, as I would call them, in industry, is also a special designation. Now, I didn't know that Vance was the one that was introducing me this evening, so let me start with that. I had a quick story. Oh, I'm getting a little feedback. I had a quick story I was going to share about being this bright-eyed intern and starting at Sisters of Mercy and going with the strategy department and them running out of things for me to do and me being terrified when they said, well, the guy from supply chain, Vance, you're going to meet him. He said that he would love to have you for the rest of the summer and spend some time in supply chain. So frivolously Googling, what is supply chain? Healthcare supply chain? I don't know what all that means. But it's been really wonderful to think back of my career origins, really start here. And I thank Vance as being the one that really introduced me to the field. And he's whom I attribute my entire career path to. And he's really been a true boss, a mentor, a coach, and a friend. It's been a tumultuous year for me. A lot of change, a lot of growth, and frankly, a lot of reflection. And so to be acknowledged at this time with all of that is really important to me and really more meaningful than perhaps it might seem on the surface. It makes it all that much more special that with the ups and the downs, this community, frankly, continues to lift each other up. And that's what's really important and what it's all about. And that's frankly what makes our industry so remarkable. I'd like to also say thanks to a few friends that have stood by me along the way. Karen Kresnick, Bill Sellis, who couldn't be here tonight, and Jason Wilson. All have been incredible friends, first and foremost, but also sounding boards to me, bringing me wisdom and encouragement when I needed it most. So thank you to them for seeing me, for believing me, and helping me navigate through my career, especially through this transition. Your support has meant the world and has provided me with invaluable perspective, and I'm deeply grateful. To my husband, Mark, who unfortunately couldn't be here this evening. He's been my advocate and cheerleader all along, and I'm so grateful to have him by my side. And as I look ahead, this award isn't just a recognition of past work, but it's a reminder of our responsibility to give back to one another and to support the community which we have here. To keep showing up for this industry, to keep learning, to keep mentoring others, as I've so graciously been the recipient of, and to lift up others as I have been lifted. I'm honored, I'm humbled, and I'm so thankful for each of you and for this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Rick Dana Barlow, we're going to ask him back to the podium to introduce Jason Molding. Rick.
Thank you, Barbara. I have the distinct pleasure and privilege of introducing my first AMER honoree. And I'm going to need some help. I am an auto racing fan, and I'm not as much of a baseball fan as Barbara and Jamie Kowalski. But does the Detroit Tigers in the American League have the designated hitter or the pinch hitter? Does anybody know?
They all have designated hitters now.
All right, so, well, see, that's why I am not a baseball fan. I am actually serving as the designated hitter for someone who desperately wanted to be here tonight to introduce Jason. But Gary Rakes called Barbara and me several times today. He tried to get here. His flight was canceled numerous times. So I am stepping in for Gary. I'm going to be brief with my remarks, but I'm going to do something unique. Based on what I've talked with Jason over several years now, interviewed him for a number of stories. The best way that I can describe him is someone who has taken a model, worked it, improved it, and then expanded it out to serve the community beyond the hospital system in which it started. And I think that's a testimony and a testament to Jason. The other thing I wanted to do is to read part of an endorsement letter by the system CEO. How many times does the system CEO laud a supply chain leader, let alone know what supply chain is and does, even when they're doing something right? So I wanted to read this because I think it's a testament to you. We don't normally do this, but I wanted to share this with you. During his tenure with Multicare, Mr. Molding has developed an outstanding and highly engaged team of supply chain professionals who are adept at ensuring the availability of the plethora of supplies necessary to successfully operate a $7 billion health system, including 13 hospitals, a widely distributed physician network with hundreds of sites, an extensive urgent care platform, several home health and hospice agencies, and a network of ambulatory surgery centers. Along with building the myriad supply network, that's that expansion I was referring to earlier, that supports other healthcare organizations' access to supplies at better network prices. Mr. Molding and his team have innovated systems, processes, and technologies that support the effectiveness of our supply chain services and brought a much more proactive approach to preventing supply shortages related to geopolitical, societal, and natural challenges to supply availability. As the COVID-19 pandemic swept across the world, Mr. Molding led a Herculean effort to ensure that Multicare was adequately supplied, and he extended his leadership engagement beyond our organization to support a host of other healthcare organizations in Washington State, serving as the private sector leader with the Washington State Hospital Association, collaborating with Washington State to support the broader healthcare delivery system. With the recent hurricane activity that dramatically impacted access to IV fluids and sterile solutions, I think a lot of you have gone through that. Mr. Molding and his team responded to this supply chain threat even before the hurricane had made landfall in the Gulf of Mexico, and Multicare has weathered the storm with no interruption in patient care and has been able to extend our support to a number of critical access hospitals in Washington because of his proactive approach. Listen to this. Mr. Molding is a servant leader who builds outstanding teams. He is adept at developing, improving, and consistently operating high-functioning systems and processes, and he is both innovative and proactive in mitigating supply chain threats and seizing business opportunities. The exceptional results that Mr. Molding and his team deliver are a testament to his exceptional leadership. And this is from William G. Robinson, CEO of Multicare. Jason Molding, congratulations.
Yeah, that is heavy. Well, I hadn't heard that or read that, so maybe I need to ask for a raise when I go back. All right. Well, kind of like Joe said, I'm kind of a supply chain nerd. I could probably talk, well, that's me, talk for hours if it's supply chain. For this, I kind of have to read. So just really grateful to be recognized by this awesome group of people and the Bellwether League. Just deeply honored to accept the AMER Award. I actually read that book. I had to look up who Dean S. Amer was, and I was like, wait a sec, I've got that book on my bookshelf. And my first materials management director gave me that book to read when I started in the industry. This reflection, or this recognition reflects the collective work of so many extraordinary people I've been fortunate to lead, to work with, and to partner with. From Overlake Hospital, where I cut my teeth on supply chain, to Providence Health and Services, where I first discovered operational discipline and mission, and how that can align to advance patient care. And at Multicare for almost 10 years, where our teams continue to redefine what an integrated, data-driven, and purpose-led supply chain can achieve. Our profession has evolved far beyond procurement and logistics. Today, healthcare supply chain is a strategic enterprise, one that connects financial stewardship, clinical excellence, and community impact. The Bellwether League has long understood that, and I'm grateful for the way this organization celebrates that transformation. This award is also a reminder of what leadership truly means, empowering others. None of these accomplishments are mine. I mean, they're my team's. They were built by teams that I've had the privilege to work with, who have embraced change, suppliers who have partnered with integrity, and executives who trusted that bold ideas could coexist with fiscal discipline. I'd like to thank my colleagues across the industry who continue to push boundaries, my mentors who have offered both challenge and encouragement, to Gary Rakes, who nominated me for this prestigious award. I'm sad he couldn't join today. And to my family, Caitlin, my wife, Lauren and Shay, my daughters, for their unwavering support and belief in what I do. Finally, to the Bellwether League Foundation, thank you for this honor and for your continued commitment to elevating the vital role of supply chain in healthcare. I'm proud to be a part of this community and excited for the next generation of leaders and what they'll accomplish. Thank you. Sorry, one thing. I think I have yours, Allison.
Oh. Now I have to read. I had them in alphabetical order.
I wasn't sure if this would be a photo op or just like to present these awards to you.
All right. Thank you to all the Amers. Now we're going to move on to the Bellwethers. As Rick explained, these are for those who have at least 25 years in the career of healthcare supply chain and leadership service. We also entered a new category this year of looking at what we call pioneers, those that may not currently work in the field or may be deceased, but didn't have all of the opportunities the current Bellwethers had to meet all of the criteria that we have. And so we also looked through those nominations and things, and they're all Bellwethers. But to let you know that we're thinking very thoughtfully about others who have come before us and make sure that they have a place with the Bellwether League. So first I want to introduce Fred Kranz, who's going to introduce George Godfrey. Fred?
I think some of us may be wondering what we did to be put so far back. This is a real privilege for me to be introducing George, and some of the previous speakers have hit on points that I think we should comment on. Number one, Joe, when you showed the emotion about Bill McFall, this is an emotional thing. This is a huge lifetime achievement award. Kevin, when you talked about the fact that nobody accomplishes anything without the help of others, I think that's something we all need to keep in mind and think about that. And I may be saying something about that later. And Eric, you used the word intrapreneurship, and it applies to the person that we're going to be inducting now. The reason that I talked about the emotional part, I started my private healthcare career at Baptist Hospital, Miami, in June 23rd, 1969. That was 2 weeks before Brian Keeley got there, I think. Baptist is one of the most excellent healthcare IDNs in the country. It is, I just lost my pineapple. We're going to talk about that. Baptist has either spawned or hired some of the greatest supply chain people in the world. They spawned me. Spawn is not really a good word, but that's what I've been told I was a spawn, so it must be true. They hired George. George came from an unfortunate background. Unlike me, who got to attend the University of Miami, George matriculated at the Florida State Teachers College in Tallahassee. like Michigan, there are no really good Division I football teams at Tallahassee. Now, the other thing for folks that don't know me is I don't usually dress this boldly. I'm usually quite conservative, but the symbol of Baptist Health of South Florida is the pineapple. Mine fell off just a minute ago. The pineapple was the symbol of courtesy and hospitality during the Renaissance. And in the front of Baptist Hospital is a huge fountain with a pineapple. Baptist is an excellent organization. Since 1960, it's had exactly 4 CEOs. First guy, I can't remember. Second guy was Ernest C. Knott Jr. The third guy was my friend and boss, Brian Edward Keeley. And the fourth guy, Bo, who has been there since 2022, 2023, I forget. He's worked there 40 years himself. So you have continuity. Over the same time, 4 supply chain leaders, or 6, depending on how you look at it. The first one was a guy named Leo Grizzle, who was an Air Force veteran, and he retired shortly after I got there in '69. Then they split the supply chain functions between a guy named William P. Harris Jr., who did purchasing, and I, who did all the other aspects of supply chain. Then came Mr. Fernandez, Frank Fernandez, who was there for over 30 years. Then a woman named Suzanne Quintero Thompson. And finally, George came there. And I met George maybe about 4 years ago. I talked to this guy, and he was, he's a very bright guy. He's also very engaged. And he has the thing that Eric, I don't know if you put it in there, but imagination is one of the key elements of the entrepreneurship. And Baptist had a problem. And if you're out here in supply chain, you've got the same problem. Probably worse than them because they figured it out. Unresolved invoices, open and unresolved invoices. They cause problems that can last for years. George took a system that was already there. It's known as CRM, which means client relationship management or customer relationship management. It's an innocuous tool. Everybody has it. But because George knew what he needed to have done, knew his processes in detail, and knew what the capabilities of the system, of the software itself was, George was able to create a problem that virtually eliminated the open invoices that they were dealing with in their organization. And since then, Eric, Baptist has gotten to the point where they're marketing that. So they created the product and they're marketing it. That's how really bright George is. I'm proud as I can be, George, to induct you into the National Healthcare Supply Chain Leadership Hall of Fame. George.
Wow, this I think. So my wife told me to be brief. I'm like, Jason, I could talk about supply chain all day, but this is something new, so I made notes. And I made 6 bullet points, but I didn't include pants. So maybe I might have to add one. So as I was going through, my wife was like, is everyone going to be there? And I'm like, we deal with shortages all the time. Delays on airplanes. This cannot be a big deal. IV shortages, yes. So for the audience, just thank you for all the extra effort on making it here. It was good to be here. The Bellwether League, what a great organization. Promoting innovators, risk takers, and pioneers. I'm all in. I mean, that is just wonderful. And then Fred, you made it a long way for that University of Miami background. I do want to recognize Fred, his passion, leading a podcast. He knows everyone in this room. And he knows every story about everyone in this room. I'll stand closer. And he's passionate about supply chain. He's passionate about the field. And I think as he continues to mature, he gets more passionate. And by the way, can we downplay the 25-year thing? Can we sort of mention season? I also like to thank Matt Arsenal, my CFO that's here today. His support, when you talk about risk takers, innovators, he is it. Most CFOs avoid all that. And when Matt recruited me into my current position, we sat down probably 7, 8 years ago, and we said we wanted to create one of the best supply chains in North America. And I told him at the time, I said, I have no idea what it's going to cost, but it's going to cost something. And he went all in, and he's been supportive every day. And Matt, can't thank you enough. Finally, I'd like to thank my role model. This is a very important person. I went to college majoring in soccer, okay? And that didn't pan out. Soccer, many years ago, the professional league folded. My sophomore year, I'm like, I better do something. And I looked to my big brother, Tom, who's here. And he was at Florida State University studying materials management. And I'm like, if he can do that, I can certainly do that. So I studied a little bit harder that sophomore year, was accepted to Florida State and majored in materials management. He then went on, become an Apex certified teacher, went on to lead materials management for multiple organizations. And just to show him, he retired at 55. You know, I still have a job, so I'm not sure who came out better on that. But Tom, thank you so much for being a great role model. Appreciate you being here. All right, point number 2, supply chain, a team event. I think a lot of people have already talked about this. You know, when you look at what happens, especially in healthcare, the amount of fingerprints that touch everything that goes on, it's amazing. I had the opportunity to lead the radiation oncology group for a brief period of time at Baptist Health. And I would tell every patient, you don't realize, you know, today is an effort of 30 different people coming in contact of that treatment plan, of the supplies, of everything that goes on to that treatment. And it has to be a team sport, and it has to be well organized, has to be well communicated. And given the complexities of healthcare, it's just wonderful. I mean, this what we work in is a challenge, but being part of that team just makes it that much more rewarding. And I really want to thank so many of my staff. I mean, this is not an award for myself. I have the best staff. I have the Vizient people sitting here. They will say, yeah, your staff does all the work, George, you don't. But I certainly have had great mentors, great supply staff, and certainly a great leadership. Point number 3, personal journey. Like many, I did have, I won't say 25 years in healthcare manufacturing, but I had a lot. And I was working for profit, Bain Capital, Goldman Sachs, did a blood glucose startup company, hit a crossroad and said, okay, it's time to give something back. Joined Baptist as a provider, a non-for-profit, faith-based organization. Went, uh-oh, what am I in for? Had Fred there to mentor me. No, just kidding. And started doing work, and this thing got in the way called the patient. I kept hearing, we have to do this for the patient this, patient, and I'm like, no, this is the result. And for my first year, I have to admit, I was focused on the results and not the patient. And time went on, and as you start to deal with the professionals and the doctors, and then my father was diagnosed with cancer, and I pivoted to help start the Miami Cancer Institute. And when you're dealing with cancer patients, I went from not understanding that patient to just loving the work that we do with the patients. And I would give up all the stock options in the world. You know, being in healthcare, giving something back is just wonderful. I can't say enough about it. Getting to the end. Point number, I think, 4. Industry impact and vision. So our industry is changing. And our industry is going through, we hear all the time, if we go to any of our board meetings, it talks about all the headwinds. You know, our revenue is going to get cut. We're going to have this lawsuit, this and that. And my words for this group is we need to find encouragement. There's enough negative, there's enough challenges, but what we do is special. What we do is treating people within our communities and providing outstanding health care. We should be proud of that. We should find a way to motivate that. We should provide a way to motivate, especially the younger group that's coming through it, because if it's all negative, people are going to lose that passion. They're going to lose that passion for innovation. And as we can encourage and as we can just acknowledge the complexities, acknowledge the headwinds, but more importantly, acknowledge the opportunities. The future is bright. The technology that's coming is wonderful. I love all the technology that we're deploying at Baptist, and I can't get enough of it. And I would just encourage everyone today, when you go back to your office, lift them up. There's enough bad stuff down there going on. Be an encourager. My next point, I think I just did it at the same time, call to action. Obviously, we're at a crossroads of technology, data, and compassion. To be a mentor, to be an innovator, what Bellwether stands for, that's important. And everyone, when I met with my leadership team recently, I told them just doing the job without innovation is not, when you're a leader, that doesn't count. And we need to start really motivating that innovation. And I think in healthcare, we avoid that. It's, do the job, don't mess things up. I would encourage the call to action is call for innovation. And in closing, I just want to say thank you again. Fred, cannot thank you enough for nominating me. Appreciate all the encouragement that you've given me. I will buy you a new pair of pants for next year. I thank you.
That's great. Thank you, George. So now to introduce Joe Klein is Gene Schneller. Gene is one of our bellwethers from last year, and we're glad that he made it here all the way from Arizona. He's got on several layers of clothes.
So this is a very strange event, I think, for many of us, because we've all been Kleinized. This Joe Klein, and think about that for a second. There are a number of people in this room who really have spent over a decade having Joe tell us not just where to go, but how to go there. And did it with a kind of compassion and sense that's really, I think, very exemplary, and very few people have that ability to do that. And if Joe were here, she would probably start out by saying that much of what motivated her was Mark McKenna, because Joe was a key person for Mark McKenna. But Mark McKenna also got Kleinized, because Mark would say, go north, and Joe figured out how to get there. And there are a lot of ways to go north, as you all know. There are a lot of choices that we make. And a bunch of the people in this room sat around at a place called the House of Tricks, and I won't tell you what that means. And that included Dick Perrin, who's here, Karen Conway, who isn't here, Chris Fashik, who was, and by the way, most of these people are people who the Bellwether League has touched in important ways. Jay Compton was one of those who sat with us, Nancy Pakazir, Mark Van Sumeren, and even Fred Kranz once in a while. We let come into that group. But Joe really did something very strange. She wanted to develop a strategy. She wanted to be able to influence. She was an amazing mentor. She had great perseverance, and beyond that, amazing friendship. And all of those in one package is very difficult to find. And by the way, it's really great to be this age and be able to go back onto 4 or 5 floppy disks and look at what Joe might have said. And by the way, I basically have drivers for floppies. I have them for about 5 different versions if you have things that you need to have done. But Joe said what our goal is working with this group was really to become, and this is a quote, to be the thought leader for education and research shaping the future of the healthcare value chain. I want you to think about that again, because academia, at least when I started working in it, couldn't spell supply chain, number one. We had perhaps what is the first supply chain department in the country, where I am. And secondly, well, we did something called purchasing, transportation, and logistics. PTO, operations research, was part of that. But Joe said, we want to be the thought leader for education, research, and shape the future, and not just of healthcare, but for the healthcare value chain. And that really became Joe's project. Joe helped us put together a foundation the Mark McKenna Foundation, which, by the way, we still do take donations. But she also mobilized. We were able to bring some of the best thinkers in the country to ASU, former surgeon generals and others who came, people who led Medicare and Medicaid. And Joe basically was relentless in working with us to be able to do that and bring not only those thought leaders for our students, but for people who came from around the country to be with us. And I think that's really important. Joe faced all of these things with courage. And in the last years of her life, as you know, Joe got Parkinson's disease. And Joe became a national leader for Parkinson's. She basically took the exact same attributes that she was able to take and do that. And now I'll be personal. Yeah, whose number is that? That's Joe Namath's number. But this isn't about Joe Namath. I got a call one day at about, I don't know, around 2005. And basically, I'm a sociologist. And I got a call, and Joe called up, and she said, Gene, I have something I want you to do. I said, what? She said, nobody knows more about group purchasing in academia than you. And I said, I really don't know very much about healthcare, though. I know a lot about purchasing. And she said, we want to do a study, and we want you to do the study. And by the way, I had never done anything in supply chain before that. And I said, Joe, I don't think I can do that. She said, you will learn. And basically, that was how Joe did things. If you didn't know how to do something, you would learn, and you'd be able to do that. So it's interesting. I protested. I ended up going to Dallas. I know you guys don't like me talking about the Dallas Palace, but that's what some people talk about. We're the Novation people. This was Novation, not Vizient. So you guys can, hold me harmless, I would hope. Anyway, Joe schlepped me around the country. We went to at least 10 different IDNs talking about what group purchasing was, how basically one might take advantage of it. And by the way, we then ended up on the floor of the Senate, and you remember there were several senators who really wanted to get rid of the ability of GPOs to bring together people, and really taught me how to become a supply chain expert. But she did that with all of us. And I think the people that I mentioned at the beginning would say that. And I think we have a video by Bert. Okay, and I'll be very brief then. Joe not only loved talking about supply chain and not only trying to move us along in our careers, but she was also a great friend, always asked about not just us, but our families. She followed my grandkids, which was amazing. Joe would call up and she'd say, hey, my granddaughter's name is Coco. I saw what Coco did on the web today. Why? I mean, who does that? Joe Klein did things like that, and so she was wonderful. But she also shared news about her beloved Bert, and we'll hear about Bert. And if you've never seen Bert's photography, it's really amazing. Each year, I get a Christmas card from Bert and Joe, talking about a holiday card, talking about basically what the work was, but also about my family and asking what goes on and what that was. So Joe's influenced a generation of healthcare leaders. And by the way, the McKenna lectures keep going. All of you are invited to come. She taught us that supply chain's not about logistics. It's about purpose. It's about people. It's about improving lives. And I would think that Joe would smile today, knowing that that gang of 10 or 12, whomever is here, and she's with us in that way. So thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I was so fortunate to have been married to Joe for 42 years. With that, I have the pleasure of representing her tonight. It would have been a daunting task to express all the emotions Joe would be showing now. And without doubt, Joe's words would have been much warmer and a lot more elegantly spoken. Joe's strong embracement of the healthcare supply chain has been at the heart of her career. While at Novation, her love and enthusiasm of the industry was obvious. It was reflected not only in the results of her superb contracting work, but in the way she mentored and motivated her team members. Her team knew she excelled in the execution of the contracting process. Her extensive connections with Arizona State University were her great opportunities to share this enthusiasm, knowledge, and motivation. Probably one of Joe's greatest accomplishments was in the achievements of the Mark McKenna Lecture Series. It was her strong desire to emphasize and demonstrate to healthcare the great value the supply chain brings to the entire hospital system. Hopefully, all these efforts allowed some of her DNA of enthusiasm, commitment, and love of healthcare to be reflected in the next generation of executives that stand here. My heartfelt thanks and appreciation to Bellwether League Foundation for recognizing and honoring Joe with this induction. This has been a beautiful finishing wrap to her career. Also, my appreciation goes to the group that nominated her for the recognition. Many thanks also to Rick Barlow for always being so responsive to my calls and messages during the last several months. He was a brave man. Thank you all, and a good evening.
We're glad that Burke could give that special recognition. Now I'd like to introduce Sue Tyke, who's going to introduce Mike Langwon.
I am truly honored tonight to be here to introduce Mike Langlois into Bellwether League Foundation Hall of Fame. But I do have to share a quick story with you. Many of you know, or maybe you don't know, some of you, Mike and I are not just supply chain colleagues and friends. We actually are family. We share 2 grandchildren. Mike's son and my daughter are married, and we have 2 beautiful grandsons, Noah and Mason. And I have to share a story with you. Noah is now 10, but when he was 7.5, one day he and I were sitting there and he said, Nana, I have to ask you something. He said, what is it that you do? Like, what do you do? He goes, I have no idea what you do. And he goes, what does my grandpa do? And I said, which grandpa? And he said, my grandpa Langlois. What does he do? You two talk about something all the time. You know, we hear about supply chain, but we have no idea what that is. I said, well, you know, we've had a career on distributing supplies, buying supplies, caring for clinicians who needed supplies. We looked into pharmacy and drugs. Looks at me with this puzzled look, and you have to know Noah, he's always thinking. He looked at me and he said, so are you and my grandpa drug dealers? I said, no, I can assure you we are not drug dealers, Noah. From that time on, I tried to explain a little bit more about supply chain and share with Noah that what we do is something that is involved in every hospital. And so I'm here to talk a little bit about the man who was very instrumental in bringing my career forward. I met Mike in 2002. We came together, he from St. John's, I from Columbia St. Mary's in Milwaukee, he from St. John's in Michigan. And we were asked to form a supply chain, a joint supply chain for Ascension Health. They were coming together. I will tell you, there were times Mike and I didn't see eye to eye on some things. I challenged him, he challenged me. He challenged me better because he's a lot bigger than me. But we always came out realizing what our goal was and how we could manage to improve the supply chain without a doubt. So my entire career from that point on, I was very blessed to have Mike and know Mike. He is a huge, huge person, not just in size, but in stature of mentoring, teaching. He's done a great job guiding people in supply chain. He has so much knowledge, wisdom, and he leaves such a legacy as he retired this year. I know he's still busy with people calling and talking to him about supply chain. A few things that I want to share that he did, and when we were working, taking a look to make the nomination, I have a couple high points, many actually, but I'll share a few with you. Mike developed more strength around the value analysis discipline, changing the rubber stamp approach commonly used by elevating the focus on defining value and engaging physicians in a more sincere fashion on addressing quality and safety while addressing the cost of products and services. His relationship management approach with physicians brought forward a new set of value analysis skills sets among supply chain value analysis team and members. Mike led several mergers, I'll call them mergers, but Resurrection Health, Trinity, he assisted with some things at Trinity. He helped with Advent Health, was his most recent adventure on developing CSC. Beaumont Health, Mike's done it all. He's really done a lot in that industry. And he knew distribution was my thing, so we had a lot of conversation about distribution and how we could improve distribution. One of the key things we did with Ascension Health that Mike was instrumental in was, at the time, we were all using Cardinal Health, and we decided to go to Medline. And many, many, many years ago, that was a challenge. None of the hospitals believed that we could pull that off because Medline wasn't prepared to take us on. At the time, I think we had 37 Mike hospitals, something like that. And they thought we were insane at recommending that we move to Medline. But we made the transition. Mike was instrumental in guiding us through that. At the same time, he worked on a self-distribution model. We talked about how we could do it on our own. How could we be better at this, right? How do we need to have all of those distributors working with us? We looked at opportunities. One of the things that Mike did was he made the term pay at the pump. And you've probably all heard it now. You've used it, right? I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding. I had no idea what he was talking about. I'm like, okay, explain that one to me because I have no idea what that means. What he was suggesting, as you all know, and many of you have probably used it, is unbundling. We wanted to get rid of bundling supplies. Mike was instrumental in working with the suppliers to take that concept away and really identify how we could break cost apart and improve the cost for the clinicians, specifically for our patients. I will tell you, there's never been a time that I've known Mike that he didn't focus on why we were all there. And I heard it tonight from several people. It's about the patient. And he made sure that all of us on his team knew it was about the patient and what we did was so important for those patients. He's been a guiding light for me. He's been a guiding light for many people in this room. He continues to take people under his wing. All of the young people coming up, we're excited to see the new wisdom that they're creating, the high level of energy. And I always look at supply chain and say, if it's not about the fun, it's not supply chain. Even though we have moments where we get challenged, is that probably not an understatement, right? Challenged. But Mike has always been there to say, we can do this. We can pull through. We can make it better. And he exemplifies that in everything he does. One of the things that someone wrote and said, Mike has always been recognized by suppliers for the professional relationships he maintained with them. He's a sincere man. He makes relationships work to the betterment of both supplier and provider. And I don't believe there's a supplier that would tell you differently, or a provider for that matter. Having served Mike as a supplier and worked with him as a peer, I can attest to his professionalism, collaboration, creativity, integrity. Mike never shies away from a tough idea or a new concept. One of the things that he was instrumental for us in is bringing us out of the basement and getting us into the work with the EIEIOs, as we prefaced it, in the industry. And he said, we're not basement dwellers. We need to have a seat at the table. We need to work diligently to be right up there with the executives. And I see that now in the room. I see how much respect we're getting in supply chain. Mike always gave us that in our head to say, yep, we got to be up with the CEOs, working with them diligently to make sure that we have that seat at the table. Having had the pleasure of working with him for nearly 20 years, I know that I'm a better professional for it, and the people that he has worked with as well. Throughout Mike's career, he was a great leader and a mentor. He continues to mentor. His passion is unwavering. He is there. He's passionate. He supports you, and I know he'll continue to mentor. And with that, I'd like to welcome Mike Langlois to the podium and congratulate him because it's an honor to have him inducted.
Thank you, Sue. I have no idea who you were just describing. I have no idea. Sounded good, but I have no idea. My daughter whispered me, Diana, she whispered me while I was sitting there saying, "Did you take this picture yourself? You should have had one of us take it." So I apologize to my family for the non-professional picture. I also want to critique one of Fred's comments. I know that Kevin said that there was not a Division I school here at Wayne State University, but about 40 miles up the road, there was a University of Michigan whose Wolverines won the national championship year before last. I don't know if you caught that, Miami. They're 7-2. How's Miami doing? Okay. So I guess neither of them are Division I schools. How much time do I have, Rick? First off, I'd like to congratulate all the other awardees and inductees today. I am privileged to be on the podium with all of you. It's a great class of 2025, and I am honored to share the recognition with all of you. Also, I think Kevin left. Kevin leave? I want to thank, oh, there he is. Sorry. Kevin, thank you for hosting today. It's an honor to receive this award here at my alumni. I am a graduate of Wayne State University, got my bachelor's of business degree. I won't say how many years ago, but it has been it is a great honor to be receiving this award here at Wayne State University, and thank you for hosting, Kevin. Appreciate that. I want to thank the nominating committee. I want to thank the board, the nominating committee for moving my nomination forward, the board for approving my nomination, and for those of you that nominated me. Rick was pretty coy when I asked him who what the nominating people were. So all I can do is thank Carl Meyer and Tom Lebowski, who actually called me to tell me that I got the award, but I've also heard that there was a number of other people that were involved in that nomination. So again, I appreciate all of you for that. I think somebody said earlier that we don't stand up here by ourselves. We don't get this award by ourselves, and we certainly don't. So I would like to take this time to publicly acknowledge and give you a little bit of background about the people that I think are responsible for me being up here today. And it goes back a little bit, but it'll be fairly quick. There are a lot of people in this room that I can call out. But these are the people that I think, and most of them aren't here, so, but these are the people that, again, I really would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank. And first off is my brother, excuse me, Paul Doglin. Paul passed away about 6 years ago, but back in '76, I was a year out of high school. I'm 68, for those of you that want to try to calculate where I'm at. I'll save you the trouble, especially those of you that are challenged in math. But I was a year out of high school, and I decided to take a year off. And I needed a job. I just want to play hockey, make some money. And Paul was the manager at St. John Hospital and Medical Center here in Detroit. And he said, "Hey, would you like to be a file clerk in medical records at St. John?" And I said, "Sure." So he gave me my first job in healthcare, which was not something that I had planned on. I didn't grow up, knowing what I wanted to do other than be a hockey player. So I have to thank Paul for being the instrument in getting me into healthcare. About a year and a half later, the director of medical records said, "Hey, would you like to work with this director of distribution? We have an offsite warehouse that has a bunch of medical records on the floor in boxes, and we want to put those on shelves, and he wants to use half of that old grocery store as a supply warehouse." And so I said, "Sure." So I worked with him. His name is Ken Perry. He worked with me. We got along really well, and at the end, we got the project all done, and he asked me a very simple question: "Do you want to run my warehouse?" And that simple question turned into a 45-year career. It's amazing that one question I go back to. And I just had lunch with him a couple of weeks ago, and I pointed that out to him, that one question turned into a 45-year career. I'll fast forward a little bit to my Ascension and Beaumont days. When I got asked to serve as the Vice President of Contracting Value Analysis for Ascension, I was working with the Director of Pharmacy at the time, who had some material management background, named Bill Martin. And Bill was interested in working back in supply chain. I asked him if he would want to be the Director of Value Analysis and move to Ascension with me, and he said, sure. So he did, and he served with me for 7 years with Ascension, another 6 years at Beaumont, Vice President, Contracting Value Analysis. And Bill had the clinical background that I did not. And we worked as a team that was just unbelievable in contracting, value analysis, working with physicians. Bill was out front, and without him, I would not be here. We saved hundreds of millions of dollars for both Ascension and Beaumont in those days. And again, I just need to call out that Bill, without Bill, I would not be here today. I got to go back to my brother-in-law again. He had been bugging me for a couple of years. He had started a healthcare executive search firm, and been bugging me a couple of years to come work with him. He had a lot of work to do, and he said, get off the road. I was working with Ascension. We were traveling a lot. And he said, why don't you come work for me? And I said, sure. So I worked for him for about 1.5 years, and didn't really like it. So I know most of you have heard a lot about Ed Hiscock tonight, but I got to bring him up one more time. Sorry. So after about 1.5 years of doing executive search, I get a call from Ed. Hey, there's a interim vice president job at Resurrection in Chicago. Are you interested in that role? That was when he was having his consulting firm, and he said, I got this position that, they're looking for somebody. Are you interested? And I said, sure. So I got back into supply chain through Ed's graciousness, and again, I have to thank him, because I don't think I'd be up here today if it wasn't for that question and that request. So thank you to Ed. And then after resigning from Beaumont, I wanted to start my own consulting firm, and I got a call to come down to Advent Health in Florida, and it was a 3-week trial. I didn't really like the position. But a gentleman by the name of Dave Huffman called me into his office. He was a senior vice president for finance at the time, and said, hey, I know you don't like this role, but would you want to work on this particular project for me? And I said, sure. And that role turned into an 8-year consulting gig, which I retired from last year. Without Dave, I don't think I'd be up here today. And all of these people have remained friends of mine. And so, again, I think we talk about supply chain, the passions. We talk about the passion that I have. I have passion about supply chain and the friends and the people that I meet. And so I have to thank Dave Huffman for his role in my career. 3 other people. Some of you know that I'm a devout Catholic. My faith is I try to wear on my sleeve. I have to thank Christ our Lord for all of the opportunities and all the people that he has put in my life. I mean, it is truly remarkable. I go back to some of the things that have happened to me, and it is all based on God putting me in the right place at the right time, giving me the right people to be in the right place at the right time. So I truly have to thank him first and foremost. I have to thank my parents. Certainly I wouldn't be up here today if it wasn't for my parents. Certainly, that is very, very certain. They were wonderful, wonderful parents. We were a very humble home, but a loving home. My dad was just a wonderful man. He passed away 6 years ago, but I try to make him proud every day. Faith, honesty, integrity, trustworthiness. He was a prime example of what it should be like, what you should be like as a son, as a husband, as a father, and as a grandfather to my kids. He was just a wonderful example. So my kids went out of their way to get here today, all 3 of them. I appreciate you being here. They all were very supportive. Supply chain, tough job to have, and we put in a lot of hours, did a lot of traveling. They were always supportive of me, and even I worked with Greg at Advent for a while. Doug did some work for me as a consultant for a while. Diana did some volunteering. with me at St. John back in the day, and I appreciate all their support, and I wouldn't have been here without them. And then finally, my wife. This I'm not going to get through. We met about 1979. A few years after that, I asked her to marry me, and she said, sure. Don't know if she knew what she was getting into, but her sacrifice for my career is unquestionable. She's a nurse. I still consider her a nurse, even though she's not practicing. We decided early on that we weren't going to have our kids. We didn't want to have our kids in latchkey and daycare, and so she was going to be home. So she worked midnights. She worked midnights so she could be home with the kids during the day, and that I could work, in supply chain and further my career. She sacrificed. As the kids got older and went into school, she took a job at a doctor's office, working 10 to 2, so she could be there in the morning and be there for her kids at night. She always took an interest in my job. Always wanted to know what was going on. If I had troubles, she wanted to counsel me. But she always trusted the decisions that I had. I mean, she trusted unequivocally. And there were some decisions that I made. Came home from Beaumont one day and says, hey, do you trust me? And she says, yes. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to quit on Monday. She said, okay, sure. She just is the rock behind me. And then they say behind every man is a great woman, and I have a great woman with her. She's shared my career. She's worked at the IDN Summit for John Kelly. All those people that I mentioned, she knows them, and she knows their wives. We've been to dinner with every person that I met. She's been very, very supportive of me, my career. I can't thank her enough. I love her to death. And I think I'm going to take this and somehow, Rick, if I can, put her name on this as well, because she deserves as much as I do. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike. I'm now going to introduce Tom Redding, who's going to introduce Joni Rittler.
Too long. So Mike, you did a great job. It's hard for me to follow that, to be honest with you. Another round of applause for Mike. So I do have to say, it was about, 2 or 3 months ago, I got a phone call from Fred Kranz. I know he's probably looking away already, but he says to me, hey, I want to make you aware that Joni Rittler is going to be inducted into the Bellwether League. And I'm like, wow, that's fantastic. Like, who's going to introduce her? He's like, well, you. And I'm like, wow, appreciate that. So then he went in and he's like, Tom, whatever you do, don't create PowerPoint slides. You don't need to spend too much time up here talking. So I'll try to keep it brief. And I talked to Joni earlier and she's got a lot to say. So I'll try to keep it very minimal. But I will say it's certainly an honor and privilege to introduce Joni. I had a chance to work with Joni for the last 7 years as a consultant. With the work we're doing with the Service and Logistics Center at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And I will say that the minute I met Joni, I realized, again, leader at her core, there's a level of determination. She has a vision for what she wants to do, and she's going to go after it. So for me, I was incredibly honored to be involved in it. I think, as you look at the healthcare supply chain, you look how fragmented the industry is, and you look at, leaders, sometimes they stay in their swim lanes, and they focus on, their sphere of influence. I think for Joni, I think that ability to, have those relationships and work with other leaders across other departments and start to think about how do you leverage, the organization as a whole. And that's not easy. It's easy just to say, okay, we're just going to do this. We're going to save, millions of dollars a year doing this or millions of dollars doing something else. But to be able to raise your game, to start thinking about how do you, improve operations, that takes a level of leadership and fortitude that, quite frankly, I've been working with hundreds of leaders around the country, and I would say there's probably 5 or 10 that I would incorporate with Joni in that group. And I think for me, it's really an honor, and I certainly don't want to say too much, and I'm sure she has plenty to say. And without further ado, and I know Barbara said don't say that, but congratulations, Joni.
Good evening, everyone. I kind of knew I was going to be last, just based on my name. So what I did was decided to have a little bit of fun because some of my message is very similar to what others have said. So what I've done is I have song lyrics in my speech. So if you're listening, see if you can pick up on the song and we'll see how many you get. So first of all, oh my goodness, thank you, Tom, for the wonderful introduction and for nominating me for this very prestigious award. Tom and I, as he said, have had the pleasure of working together at CHOP for several years, most recently designing and opening the Service and Logistics Center. Thank you. But Tom, I won't be there for the new patient tower that CHOP is building, so I won't be there to collaborate with you, but I will be cheering you on and on and on. Thank you to the Bellwether League for this recognition. I was actually on vacation when Fred called me to tell me the news, and I nearly dropped my drink. We were on a cruise. I was totally overjoyed and deeply honored to be recognized by such an elite and innovative group of peers. I've been walking on sunshine since. When you reach the point in your career where you start thinking about your next chapter, it's natural to look back, to reflect on where you've been and who helped you along the way. So kudos to the Bellwether League for remembering to turn back around and help the next one in line. As I was preparing for the speech, I kept seeing a quote on the wall in the gym when I work out, and it said, "One of the greatest things in life is doing what others say you cannot." This really resonates with me because it describes a lot of my journey. So I was one of 9 kids. I had 1 sister and 7 brothers. Growing up, my sister and I were told many times what the boys could do and what we couldn't. So when we went to the Baseball Hall of Fame, we couldn't go in. My brothers did. We walked around a park for 2 hours or 3 hours waiting for them to come back out. In high school, I told my mom I wanted to go to college, and she laughed at me. She actually laughed out loud at me. She said, "You have 7 brothers. I will pay for them first. You're going to get married and have kids." Now, please don't judge my mom. She's really a very, very incredible woman, if it's just the time and her own upbringing. She raised all 9 of us on her own when my dad left. Sometimes working 3 jobs at one time. She embodied strength. She gave me love and taught me how to walk on stormy seas. My drive for excellence and my work ethic come straight from her. I also put myself and 4 kids through college. Only 2 of my brothers went to college, only 1 of them finished, and I have a master's and a bachelor's degree. So I could do what she said I couldn't. Early in my career, I was often the only woman at the table. I got plenty of very polite nods and a few not so polite comments. One male colleague once asked me why I never hosted the team for dinner when they visited in Philly. My response was, "Well, we haven't had dinner at your house either." As a woman, I always felt I had to work harder, but I'm here to say a diva is a female version of a hustler. I'll never forget the time when a car salesman tried to sell me tire insurance, and I said no. He very rudely turned to my husband and said, "Are you going to let her make that decision?" Bob didn't miss a beat. He said she just did. I've been in supply chain for over 35 years. I've worked on everything from technology implementations to process improvements to redesigning storerooms, opening hospital, building teams, and growing talent. But like others, I didn't do any of this alone. We all need someone to lean on. I've been fortunate to work with so many talented, dedicated professionals and have mentors who believed in me. Don Westerman hired me into my first director role and believed in me in a time when I wasn't sure I even believed in myself. I told Don, this was back in the 1990s, that my goal was to get supply chain out of the basement. At CHI, I learned from the incredible leaders like Phil Mears, who is creative, and innovative, and one of the most genuine people I've ever met. Colleen Bly, who was a CFO, whose positivity could lighten up any room, and I still work to emulate her. CHOP was truly my dream job. It brought together two things that I love, children and supply chain. To borrow a quote from Walt Disney, it's kind of fun to do the impossible, and I've always considered my job fun. Our supply chain team far exceeded the goal given to me, and I quote, "Just get product on the shelf." Together, we built a resilient, strategic team that delivers not only supplies, but service, value, and quality. Remember I said I wanted to get supply chain out of the basement? I'm proud to say my office is on the 20th floor, right down the hall from the C-suite. But most importantly to me, I know that the clinical teams respect our supply chain and consider us a valuable partner in the patient safety journey. Unfortunately, my successor, I am retiring at the end of this year. My successor starts today. He was in orientation. He's not getting my office. Which means to me we still have work to do, continuing to elevate and advocate for the vital role of supply chain in healthcare. Of course, none of this would have been possible without my family. My mother, with her grit and grace, taught me persistence. My husband, Bob. There's one thing in life that still rings true. I can count on you. Bob has been my rock, giving me calm and perspective when I needed it most. So I did meet my mom's expectations. I got married very young. I had kids very young, and they are the greatest joys in my life. My son Edward is here. My daughter Michelle is here. In many ways, they raised me because I was such a young mom. Their curiosity and courage to move beyond our little hometown inspired me every step of the way. They will always be the wind beneath my wings. So, from the girl who was told she couldn't, here I stand today among the best of my peers in our industry and say thank you. Thank you for this prestigious honor. I'm humbled, proud, and grateful to be recognized among such innovative and passionate peers. One last thing. So when you start a CHOP, the very first question they ask you is, are you an Eagles fan? So in that spirit, I will end with, fly, Eagles fly, go birds. And there were 10 lyric quotes in there. I don't know if anybody got 10, but there were 10. Thank you.
Thank you, Joni. That was great. So now our guest nominator is Gary Rakes, who made it after 2 days of trying to get here. So devoted. That's just great. He whispered in my ear, am I too late to do this? I said, oh my God. So he is going to introduce Claude Trefus and talk a little bit about Claude on his behalf.
Yeah, what a day. What a day. I think it's been 14 hours in the airports today. So fun. So, well, good evening, everyone. And to set this up, because this is something new this year. So in 2025, the Bellwether Leg Foundation Board implemented what we call the Pioneer category. And this is to recognize visionary supply chain leaders whose major career contributions and accomplishments span the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and maybe even earlier. And they also influence the foundational structure, and theories of healthcare supply chain. Similar to the Baseball Hall of Fame's Classic Eras Committee, who looks at baseball players whose greatest contributions to the sport were really prior to 1980. We are following a similar path with the Pioneer Subcommittee. So just as in the Baseball Hall of Fame, these pioneers will be recognized as Bellwether Hall of Fame honorees as well. So this year, we have two extremely deserving honorees, and it is my pleasure to introduce one of those, Mr. Claude Trefis. So Mr. Trefis was regarded for his strong work ethic and was a role model within the organizations in which he served. Much of that came from his wartime experience in World War II, where he served in the Polish resistance as a sector commander instructor and intelligence officer for the British Underground against the Axis powers. During the war, he suffered grenade injuries, resulting in the loss of his leg, and subsequently wore an artificial leg. After the war ended, he worked for the U.S. occupation, the Army occupation forces in Germany, Belgium, and France, and as an executive with the International Refugee Organization, and immigrated to the United States in the 1950s. Mr. Trefis' career spanned over 40 years, and he was an influential hospital supply chain leader during the 50s through the 80s, and served as a staunch and vocal advocate for centralizing the materials management function and operating like a real business, according to a 2007 report in Healthcare Purchasing News. His supply chain career began in the 1960s at the university setting, where he was a senior purchasing agent at The Ohio University and its hospitals. He then joined Milton S. Hershey Medical Center of the Pennsylvania State University as their purchasing manager. During the 70s and 80s, Trefis served as director of purchasing at Wilmington Medical Center, where he also established something of a toehold in the developing and growing group purchasing industry. He founded the first statewide healthcare group purchasing organization and served as the president of the Purchasing Managers Association of Delaware. Trefis advocated that hospitals maintain control of all their supply chain operations, as reported in Healthcare Purchasing News, but he also recognized the appeal and growth of an emerging breed of voluntary group purchasing organizations. Trefis also was one of the growing number of healthcare supply chain influencers at the time who advocated that the department manage itself like a business on a sound profit and loss basis, an idea ahead of its time and practiced extensively in our career supply chain of today. As Wilmington Medical Center expanded into the multi-health system called Medical Center of Delaware in the early 90s, Trefis left to join the Joint Purchasing Corporation, JPC, a New York-based GPO providing shared services and purchasing for hospitals, synagogues, and social service agencies, largely within the New York metropolitan area. Claude retired from JVC after a very distinguished 40-year career and passed away in 2015. It is now my honor, on behalf of Mr. Claude Trefis and his family, to receive the 2025 Bellwether Hall of Fame Award and personally show my sincere appreciation for his outstanding supply chain leadership and influential career.
And we'll invite Rick Barlow back to introduce Pat Neff Groner.
One of my goals from the very beginning was to locate and share the stories of pioneers who have influenced and shaped this profession and industry in immeasurable ways. Men and women who ideated, then created and developed concepts and launched operations and organizations that have left indelible marks on business, culture, patient care, and service. Pat Neff Groner was one of those pioneers. He became a hospital administrator and leader at a very young age. He was 30. That was something unique in 1950. He retired decades later as president and CEO of a multi-hospital system and forerunner to an IDN, Baptist Healthcare Corporation in Pensacola, Florida. He initiated many innovations in clinical service, group purchasing, and supply chain operations during his storied hospital career. Under his leadership, Baptist Healthcare expanded clinical care capabilities for its primary patient care population, extended clinical services to outlying rural areas as well. He formed regional alliances with smaller rural hospitals to cut costs by partnering with a larger system, and that became a regional operational model worth replicating. He also sparked something of a revolution in supply chain more than a half century ago. He brought together a group of leaders to create, develop, and launch a national cooperative of not-for-profit hospitals to share product and service contracts, labor management and personnel issues, and ideas for clinical, financial, and operational improvement at a time when investor-owned hospital companies and state hospital associations represented what was then known as collaborative purchasing and management operations. That organization was known as Voluntary Hospitals of America, VHA, which several decades later would become one of the heritage GPOs that formed Vizient. What's so fruitful about finding and sharing stories of pioneers like Pat and F. Groner is that their life and career extend well beyond just what they accomplished during their career. Their enduring contributions and legacy leave the industry and profession so much richer. Mr. Groner's family could not be here tonight, but expressed profound appreciation for Bellwether League Foundation recognizing him. Mr. Groner's granddaughter, Jennifer Groner Coble, shared the following acceptance on behalf of the Groner family. This is from Jennifer. On behalf of our family, I am deeply honored to accept the Bellwether League Foundation's Class of 2025 recognition for my grandfather, Pat F. Groner. We are grateful that the foundation has chosen to celebrate a life defined by service, invention, and leadership in healthcare. Pat Groner's 33-year career in healthcare leadership transformed one community hospital into a system that became a model for the nation. A Marine pilot who served in the South Pacific Theater during World War II, he brought courage, discipline, and an abiding sense of mission to civilian life. He arrived at Baptist Hospital in Pensacola when the facility was still on the drawing board and led its growth from a 100-bed hospital into a 500-bed health system by the time he retired in 1983. Pat was a man of ideas and action. He pioneered clinical and operational advances that changed how hospitals delivered care and organized services. Under his leadership, Baptist introduced the first post-operative recovery room in Florida, one of the nation's earliest intensive coronary care units, and one of the country's first outpatient surgical care units. His teams added oncology alongside cardiology, expanded outpatient surgical services, and launched a hospital-based air ambulance known as Life Flight that became a life-saving prototype for others. Pat's influence extended beyond clinical innovation into financing, policy, and community solutions. He persuaded Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida to cover outpatient surgery and later served on its board of directors. He implemented productivity incentives in a not-for-profit environment and published cost containment through employee incentives program in 1977, a practical guide for departments to improve performance. He developed housing programs in the 1970s that became prototypes for assisted living communities and partnered with the University of West Florida when it opened nearby. Pat co-founded and shaped organizations that strengthened not-for-profit hospitals nationwide. He helped create the Hospital Research and Development Institute as a forum for administrators to exchange ideas. He co-founded Voluntary Hospitals of America to give not-for-profit hospitals collective purchasing power, negotiated landmark product agreements that tempered price inflation, and co-founded an insurance company to address malpractice crisis by aligning incentives to reduce adverse outcomes. These initiatives led to models and group purchasing organizations that others replicated across the country. Pat also was a mentor and builder of people. He delighted in working with bright, innovative colleagues and invested deeply in developing the next generation of leaders. Colleagues described him as energetic, imaginative, and relentless in finding better ways to serve patients and communities. He spent time with young executives and clinicians, elevating the profession from its superintendent roots to a field led by trained, ethical senior executives. We accept this award in gratitude for the recognition of Pat's lifetime of service and for the many colleagues, clinicians, staff, and community partners who joined him in daring to make change. His legacy lives on in the institutions he built, the practices he pioneered, and the leaders he mentored. Thank you to the Bellwether League Foundation, the selection committee, and everyone gathered tonight to honor Pat Groner. We are humbled and proud to accept this honor on his behalf. With appreciation, Jennifer Groner-Coble, granddaughter of Pat and F. Groner, on behalf of the Groner family. Let's give him a hand. Next, I'm going to call Fred Kranz back to the podium to salute our veterans. Fred?
First, Rick, I think earlier when you used the term designated hitter, what you really were referring to is pinch hitter. When someone gets put into bat for someone else, that's a pinch hitter. Okay, I don't know anything about auto racing, but I do know baseball. Interesting. Rick stole part of my thunder in his introductory talk. I had Chico Manning all set up to answer this question. Chico, what is November 10th? The Marine Corps birthday, that's right. And tomorrow is Veterans Day. And so I wanted to do some recognition of veterans in sort of a different way. We have a list, I think we're publishing, of all the bellwethers who have been veterans, but I want to do something a little different. You know, my career started out as a U.S. Navy hospital corpsman serving with the Marines in Vietnam. And I say that there are three things that have had the most influence on my career. Number one, the U.S. Navy. Number two was the University of Miami. Number three, Baptist Hospital in Miami. Of those three, I talked with Bob Feller, spent a whole day with Bob Feller in Van Meter, Iowa. And we had a great talk. And I asked him, he had this frieze on the front of his building, sort of a half sculpture. And I said, Bob, who did that? It's beautiful. He said, my son did that, Fred. He attended the University of Miami. That's in Coral Gables. I said, Bob, you don't need to tell me that. But we talked. This guy won 266 Major League Baseball games, missed 4 years because of his service in World War II. Undoubtedly would have been a 300-game winning pitcher. I said, what was your greatest accomplishment? He said, serving my country in World War II. He was the first, depending on how you look at it, he was the first or second major leaguer to enlist in World War II. Hank Greenberg, who played for Detroit, had just gotten out of the Army, and he immediately re-enlisted. So they were the first two. So I would like everyone in here who has been in any branch of the military service to please stand up. Now, I want you people to remember who they were, because I want you to do something a little different. Two things we do that sort of get under my skin is we tell people, you have our thoughts and prayers. That's not really very helpful. It's sort of a surface thing. And the other thing is, thanks for your service. Instead of saying thanks for your service, when you meet someone who's been in the military, here's what would be more meaningful. Engage them. Ask them what they did. Ask them what kind of tasks they performed. Gary Rakes was a U.S. Navy Medical Service Corps officer. Those guys figured out how to put supplies on hospital ships. And hospital ships took care of everybody at sea with significantly fewer SKUs than a regular hospital has. And you can learn from them, but also you're showing them the respect of caring about what they did. It might just be me, but the thanks for your service thing leaves a little bit to be desired. So if you can, engage people. The second thing I wanted to accomplish in this talk is the stuff that Kevin started and that George and many others have said. None of us accomplishes anything without the input of others. When I worked at Baptist Hospital, one day we were coming back from playing tennis, Brian Keeley and I, and Brian was telling me, he was a young administrator then, he hadn't become the CEO, brightest, greatest guy in the world, and he said, Fred, I like to go on vacation, but I can't. I said, why, Brian? He said, because I have too much to do, my work won't get done, and I just can't go. I said, Brian, I'll tell you what, why don't you go on vacation for a week, and I'll pick someone else to go on vacation for a week, and we won't do either of your jobs, and I guarantee you the person I pick will be missed more than you. And he goes, well, who would you pick? And just at that time, a kid named Paul Topper, who was physically challenged, who worked in environmental services, was pushing trash across the dock at Baptist to the compactor. And I said, I'll pick Paul. And I hadn't heard Brian swear very often. Brian also was a U.S. Navy Medical Service Corps officer. But he gave me a two-word response. And went to his office, and I thought, uh-oh, this is not a good thing. And about an hour later, Brian called back. He says, you know, Fred, I've been thinking this over. They would miss Paul Topper more than they'd miss me, wouldn't they? I said, you're right. Ever seen what happened when a compactor breaks on the weekend? They definitely would. And consequently, over the years, and Brian was a great guy anyway, but over the years, Baptist has become one of the best employers of IDNs in this country. And a lot of that's due to Brian Keeley. So what I would say to you folks is, you know who you work with. Learn their names, learn what they do, engage them, talk with them, tell them how important they are, and maybe even come up with some kind of a way to show your appreciation. And Rick, that's why I'm cutting ahead here. About a year ago, I decided that I wanted to give an award out, and I originally called it the Fred Kranz Pants Award. And my coworker Joe Nemeth said, "Why don't you just call it a Kranzy Award?" And the first winner of the Kranzy Award was Randy Bradley, who was the first AMR winner. And these are the pants he and I share. And I think if you look at the Bellwether League, there are two people above all others who are responsible for it being here. One is Mr. Jamie Kowalski, who's not here tonight, and the other is Rick Dana Barlow. So I think I was going to do this annually, but I turned 80 2 years ago, and I did the math, and there wouldn't be too many winners of this award if I did that. So I decided to do it whenever I felt like it. And now my second award winner, if you'll come up here, Rick, is Rick Barlow. There you go. Yeah, look, now you see the motif in case you get the dollar. It's going well with Captain American dollars. So just think about that when you're talking and working with your people in the workplace. The idea, part of the reason for this idea came from George Godfrey. If you saw the hat I was wearing, that was an idea that he had to honor the people in the supply chain at Baptist. So that's it. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everybody. Fred is one of the most creative thinkers that I know. He's also one of the greatest storytellers and communicators in the industry, so I thank him. Let's give Fred a round of applause.
I wanted to give a shout out next to a very important group for the Bellwether League Foundation, and that's our sponsors, and that's all of you. Much of what we do is channeled through our voluntary governing board of directors and operational advisory council, and funded by dedicated and sustaining and event sponsors and alumni and other donors. Each of us recognizes that what we do here together, honoring and saluting supply chain excellence, is so essential and vital to the profession, industry, and society. Bellwether League Foundation continues to be blessed with 5 sustaining sponsors that have supported our mission and vision faithfully for 18 consecutive years. I'm going to read the company names and ask company executives, if they're here, to stand and be recognized. Please hold your applause until I finish reading them. We have Owens & Minor, Premier, Vizient, Wingfoot Media, and Healthcare Purchasing News. We appreciate their dedicated contributions and support. Please give them a round of applause. We recognize 3 companies at the founding sustaining sponsorship level. That is from year 1. And I just want you to know that we launched we had our first event. There was probably about 35 people there and a couple of tables, mere days after the stock market crashed in 2008. And these folks all showed up to start honoring supply chain. Owens & Minor, Premier, and Vizient. We recognize 3 companies at the platinum sustaining sponsorship level, and that is the same level as founding sponsors, but they came after that first year, and that is GHX, Northwestern, and Wingfoot Media, which started out back in 2008 as a charter gold. We recognize 1 company that right now owns the gold sustaining sponsorship level, Logic Source. And we recognize 10 organizations at the silver sustaining sponsorship level: Capstone Health Alliance, GS1 US Healthcare, Healthcare Purchasing News, HSCA, IDN Directory by Share Moving Media, Mayo Clinic, Medline Industries, Omnicell, Omnichannel Health, and Sainage. We also recognize 9 healthcare organizations at the bronze sustaining sponsorship level, and that is the provider-centric, provider-exclusive level. And that is Allina Health, Atrium Advocate Health, BJ Healthcare, Freighter Theta Care, Geisinger, Oxner, PIH Health, Stanford Medicine, and Texas Health Resources. Now, I want to call your attention to that little group on the far right that have the plus signs after their names. I assure you, those aren't new streaming services for you to subscribe to. And I'm not so sure that those companies want to get into that business anyway. Those are companies that have agreed to go above and beyond their normal contributions or annual contributions and donations to make donations to fund our scholarships for students. And we, as well as the student recipients, appreciate their generosity. And if each of you would like to join them, see me afterwards. We'd appreciate it too. Now, the next slide is a very, very dense slide, and it looks markedly different from the one you see on page 5 of your event program. And that's due to the production deadlines when we were able to get this done. What you see here is the latest group. We want to thank 36 corporate, professional, and event sponsors and donors, some of whom donate annually and some even monthly. Please give them all a round of applause. In that group, you're going to see a lot of individuals. Even on the boards out there, you're going to see a lot of individuals' names. And I'm going to pull from Allison's Star Wars themed article in the latest edition of Leaders and Luminaries. And I'm going to say that a long time ago, in a boardroom far away, there was a guy in the back over there named Vance Moore who encouraged us to reach out to what we call alumni. And, you know, being healthcare, you know as well as I do, that managing in healthcare and trying to effect change in healthcare is like trying to get a cargo container ship to make a U-turn in the Suez Canal. And so we finally got it done this year, and this is the result we have. It was just a tremendous, you know what? I just thought of the best way to describe it. If you remember that climactic scene at the end of It's a Wonderful Life, when George Bailey was with his family and all the townspeople came in to support the Bailey Bank of Savings and Loan. This is our It's a Wonderful Life, and it's just the beginning. So I want to thank everyone for doing that, for your generosity, and continuing to support this organization. One of the things that we're going to do next year is we're going to put together a lighthouse to show all the different people over the years from the very beginning who have donated to this organization. And if we don't have it at BLFIRE19, we will definitely have it at BLFIRE20 for our 20th anniversary. So next, I'm going to ask Rachel Anderson, Future Famers Class of 2023, and our Professional Development Committee Chair, to share a few words about our collegiate capstone projects, scholarships, and educational content. Rachel?
All right. I know that for me, I want to recognize all of the committees that have put in work all throughout the year. So if you're a member of our marketing or our philanthropy or our professional development committee, if you would stand for me, please. Come on, everybody. Don't be shy. All right. So thank you. For a lot of us, this event is the culmination of what is a year's worth of hard work and effort, and there's so much of it that goes in to tonight behind the scenes, and I wanted to take just a few minutes and tell you a little bit more about that. Since 2022, our philanthropy programs have grown exponentially. 3 years ago, we launched our annual collegiate capstone program. So that was launched to bring together college students to actually have an opportunity to work on a real live project that impacts a provider organization. And a lot of you got to hear from Wayne State earlier tonight and how that program actually gave the students an opportunity to engage with Corewell Health and present those opportunities and their findings back to them in a meaningful way that hopefully they will implement. As of this year, we have featured 5 collegiate capstone projects that have involved the University of Michigan with Michigan Medicine, the University of Arkansas, and Miami University with Trinity Health, the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee with Froedtert Health, and tonight's Wayne State University with Corewell Health. All of the videos you can find on bellwetherleague.org, and we will have Corewell Health and Wayne State's posted soon. It's my pleasure and my privilege to announce next year's collegiate capstone project that will have a team of students at Georgia Southern University working with Joe at Piedmont Health in Atlanta. That's also near and dear to my heart because I was born at Piedmont Hospital, so I'm excited for that. So congratulations to both those organizations, and we look forward to your presentation next fall at BLFIRE19. So if y'all will welcome Joe and give them a round of applause, please. Okay. Next one. Okay. All right, I wanted to also highlight our scholarship programs. Last year, we introduced 3 scholarships that are named after 3 different Hall of Famers, and they're going to focus on 3 distinct topics that best reflect those names bestowed upon them. The Jamie C. Kowalski Scholarship specializes in leadership development, succession planning, and professional mentoring for supply chain advancement. The Robert A. Simpson Scholarship specializes in career and professional mentoring, also for supply chain advancement. The Lillian R. Matiska Scholarship specializes in entrepreneurial motivation and performance in healthcare operations. Applicants are asked to submit formal applications that include responding to short essay questions, and these applications can be downloaded from bellwetherleague.org. So we're now accepting scholarships, as Rick mentioned, for 2026. To date, scholarships have been awarded to students attending St. Louis University, University of Kentucky, University of Missouri, St. Louis, and Washington University, as well as Purdue University. We are thankful for the 4 sustaining sponsors that have supported the scholarship program this year, and that is GHX, Vizient, Allina, and BJC Healthcare, as well as a growing number of all of you as Hall of Famers that are eager to support that next generation of supply chain leaders. We invite all of you to recommend to your supply chain interns or to any students that are pursuing undergraduate or graduate programs to apply to the scholarships, and they are open as well now. And then finally, professional development. We have a lot of upcoming and exciting things that we've been working on. You heard earlier tonight our annual Leadership Symposium, which features the Collegiate Capstone Project reports, lectures, and panel discussions by thought leaders. But also we are unveloping and enrolling, or rolling out, I should say, our supply chain maturity assessment tool. And that enables healthcare supply chain departments to self-evaluate their operations and their performance. This easy-to-use and unique tool was created, designed, and updated by several active IDN supply chain executives. And the affordable licensing fee helps to access the supply chain maturity assessment tool, and it goes to fund our scholarship programs. We also have fireside chats that we've enrolled and put out into LinkedIn as well as on the website. And it's an opportunity to hear from industry leaders and discuss what's happening in the world, but what's also happening in their worlds as they see it today, as it impacts healthcare supply chain and high quality patient care. And then our annual alumni publication, which is Leaders and Luminaries. Some of you may have seen previous editions of it on the table tonight when you came in. It explores relevant supply chain topics and shares analysis and opinions of experts that are in our Bellwether community. You can watch those fireside chats. You can read the Leaders and Luminaries on our website, again, at bellwetherleague.org. So I want to say thank you so much on behalf of all the work that everyone has done for professional development.
All right, I'm going to assure you, you are 3.5 minutes before you get some air conditioning out there. I want to thank you all for attending this evening, and thanks to everyone who's going to be watching the video of this a little bit later. We are honored to shine a light on supply chain performance excellence. That was one of our original taglines on the website. But once again, I want to congratulate the Future Famers class of 2025, the Ammer honoree class of 2025, and the Bellwether class of 2025. Let's give them a hand. We also congratulate the 2025 Collegiate Capstone Project team from Wayne State and the 2025 scholarship winners. Let's give them a hand. We also appreciate all of you. You serve as our nominators, our donors, our sponsors, and our volunteers. You help support BLF for the benefit of the industry and profession. Now, we invite all of you to nominate someone for the 2026 classes. They are going to be honored at BLFIRE18 next fall. The deadline, as I said to somebody earlier, the deadline is February 2nd. But that's not too far away. So just think about that. The nomination forms are live on the website. You can download them right now. You can also watch videos on how to set up a nomination form, how to complete it, and also how the nomination process works once it gets to the nominating committee. Now, Rachel just talked about the latest editions of Leaders and Luminaries magazine on the website. You're going to find a tribute to Bill McFall out there. I don't know if you recognize it out on the registration table, but the award out there was a replica of the award that Bill received in 2028. That's our original design for the Beacon Award that now looks like this. You can also get our bi-monthly email newsletter. Remember, if you'd like it, send me an email. It's also on the website. And then our historical and sometimes hysterical opinion columns, famed flashbacks, vintage voice, as well as our fireside chats, our podcasts, our videos. We offer a wealth of content online that threatens to blow up the servers. So take a look at it before it goes kablooey. Now, if you would like to recycle your badges, at the registration table, there's a little tub. Just put them in there. I want to assure you that some of you have sleeves that go back more than a decade. They've been recycled for so long. So someone famous could have been wearing your badges at an earlier time. I'd also like to invite you to an informal after-event reception at Fuel at the Detroit Marriott Renaissance, sponsored by Vizient. We're thankful to Vizient. It's a great facility, so be sure and go there afterwards. Now, before we go, just got a few more lines. I'd like to leave you with a quote from the actor Michael J. Fox. You know him from Back to the Future. He published it last month, and it's something, as soon as I read it, I wanted to share it with you. I'd like for you to ponder it. He said, some of the best parts of our future can come from the past. Bellwether League Foundation agrees, and your participation and support and the fact that you're here tonight means you do too. So let's continue to salute the healthcare supply chain of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Travel safely. I hope you all can return to your homes. Stay healthy. We look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you, and good night.